Crossover. Oh, killer crossover. Just crossover. It just crossed him over nastily.
Another victim to the crossovers. Cross him up and sit him down.
Poll question in just a moment.
Okay.
Today, crossover is powered by Everlow Concrete Repair in Omaha at everlowconcrete.com. Poll
How
question.
do you pronounce Hosier?
Hosier.
So that
Nebraska beat the Hosiers last week.
I felt good about it. Now I'm not feeling great about it.
So this guy was really big a long time ago, maybe more than a decade ago. And now he just started coming out with new music, and it feels like now he has a different feel to him. So according to Google, when you type in Hosier pronunciation, it is Housier.
No way.
Mm.
No, Hosier.
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 Hosier. Okay.
Hosier.
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 I always said Hosier.
I've always said Hosier too.
Well, I thought
you might have an accent. Again, that's the team that's playing tonight against Notre Dame.
Hosier.
That sounds like bad Chicago accent. Yeah, I'm gonna watch the Indiana Hosiers, man.
Hosiers. That's kind of how Signetti talks a little bit.
What?
Signetti's got some real Pittsburgh.
Yes,
yinzer.
he's a yinzer.
Yeah.
He is a yinzer.
Yeah, big time.
Hammer down.
He's gonna love it. He's gonna love the weather tonight. Because did you see the pictures coming out of South Bend?
You know, I've been in that area, and that's that road already is like when the weather's bad.
It's a nightmare. There's only one road into the whole town.
It's a crappy road. Like, it's just not nice to go and park. And I know what lot. So they're going to. So the hockey stadium is here, and then there's this massive parking lot that goes all the way down to the front of the stadium, Notre Dame Stadium. Mm-hmm. And so there's one lane that basically you have to go down there, and then you have to like kind of whip around, and then you whip around and you get to the back of the hockey stadium, and then you come through. It's a nightmare to get into that parking lot. And then so you get to that winding road, and then it splits off, but then there are so many different parking lot passes that you have to buy that it's just if you've never been at ND before, if you've never gone to an ND game, especially in this weather where it's bad, it's going to be terrible.
Is that what the Chicagoans call it?
ND?
ND, yeah.
ND. I didn't know that.
How do you become a Notre Dame fan these days?
Your dad went there, or your mother went there, or your grandfather went there, or your great-grandfather went there.
You're rich.
Or your cousin went there, or you have no college football team to root for in Chicago, so you're
I know why when I was young, they drew fans because there weren't as many options and weren't as many teams on TV, and they were good, so people hated them. So if you wanted to be opposite of your parents, you rooted for Notre Dame. But you guys are right. Outside of that connection, how do you become a new Notre Dame fan?
Well,
nowadays I don't know.
They're gatekeepers, man. They're gatekeepers. It's the Notre Dame. I'll tell you right now.
It used to happen more because they were the only team on TV.
Yes,
they were.
It's like our Cubs.
It's the Cubs. It's the Braves. It's just access to the team. Right now, I mean, I don't know. They gotta be not gaining fans at a significant rate.
They gatekeep too. They don't let anybody confuse you. Notre Dame fans who root for Notre Dame and who went there treat fans who didn't go to Notre Dame, the college, differently.
But they need them.
They give them a little.
Need them boys.
I don't do they because they sell out, and there's a lot of people who go to those games. I'll say this: it's a traveling.
They got like I said, they're hemorrhaging young fans.
It's a traveling home base. I know people personally who own houses in South Bend, who live in other parts of the country, but own houses in South Bend so they could go to every single Notre Dame home game. And so they'll just fly in and they'll stay at their houses and then they'll go to the game.
Does everybody know a Notre Dame graduate?
Graduate? I don't think so.
I know.
I don't think graduate. I think fan. Yeah, I know a few in Omaha.
I don't know any.
So I had two. I had two people from my graduating class in high school went to Notre Dame, and then the current principal of Urbandale High School went to Notre Dame.
No kidding.
But he was a year behind me.
Yeah, maybe I do, and I just don't know about it.
It's that Subway alumni.
12. I know 12.
It's also one of those schools you put it on your resume.
Yeah, it looks really
You're
cool.
probably going to beat out the Harvard of the Midwest, Nebraska, maybe just slightly.
It does look. I mean, it's Notre Dame.
I went to
Is it really that cool? No,
I went to
but it's Notre Dame.
I'll say this though. So you go to, like, let's say you go to the University of Nebraska. You're at a local establishment, okay? You're my age. And you go, "Oh, I'm going to be a lawyer, or I'm going to go to law school, or I'm going to be a doctor, or whatever." The women or people that you're talking to will be like, "Oh, wow." And they'll immediately be like, "Oh, they'll be interested in you. Like, look at you. You're going to Nebraska. You're going to be a lawyer. You're going to be a doctor. Like, you must be incredibly intelligent, incredibly smart." And they just kind of talk to you a little bit differently. You go to Notre Dame and you say, "Well, I'm going to be a lawyer. I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to be a businessman." They're like, "Well, like, yeah, you and everybody else. Like we're all that smart." I went to ND and I visited and I go, "Yeah, I work in sports journalism. I go to Nebraska." I was like the most interesting man there. They were all just absolutely blown away with the fact that, like, oh, this, like, you actually have ideas and like are creative and don't have to like go into a massive amount of debt in order to like go and start your father's business, you know?
Okay. All right. That's
It's a different culture over there.
Here's what I've learned. The man hates Notre Dame.
Yeah, clearly.
Can't
stand him.
Cannot it that. I mean,
I once had a guy come up to me because I went to Notre Dame High School, and he goes, "You a domer?" And I go, am I a what?
Something you might say on the streets.
I go, am I what? He goes, "You a golden domer?" And I'm like, "Nah, man, I just go to high school." He's like, "Oh, I just saw Notre Dame." I go, No, I just there's a high school over here. It's called Notre Dame. He goes, "Oh, well, I'm a domer. I went there. I graduated in 1992."
You obviously have it because where you're from, but like, I'd be curious. I mean, people might. I don't hate Notre Dame. I don't really feel anything toward Notre Dame. They
don't win anything anymore. That's why.
Yeah, they have basically been fine throughout my entire life. They've been fine.
They're irrelevant.
General. I mean, like, people will say that and they'll come back to us and they'll say, "Well, you want to talk about irrelevant?" You know, I get it.
Juice ain't worth the squeeze. They're not.
But I would imagine you feel differently toward Notre Dame was. I mean, Notre Dame was pretty freaking huge.
I've seen Notre Dame at its height.
Yeah,
but I've also seen Bob Davie, Tyrone Willingham.
Yeah, many have seen Tyrone Willingham.
Like, am I going out of my way to watch Notre Dame play BC on a Saturday?
Not anymore.
But if they play a big game like USC or Army, I'm going to tune in. I don't know that I might stay the whole time. But something you pointed out, I think with them, it's kind of like, you know what? It's Notre Dame. Now, I do like their current head football coach.
Well, they used to be on every week, and it was just the game that was on. It was 1:00. It was NBC. It was Notre Dame, and they were just on, and I would watch if Nebraska wasn't playing at that time. And so that's how you build a fan base, but it doesn't work. There's a billion games on. Everybody's on television now.
You can't build a fan base when you stink and you're pretentious. It's probably the two worst qualities.
You know who's a Notre Dame fan? Shane Gillis.
God, I love that guy. That's the problem.
So Shane Gillis will be on College Game Day.
Is he picking tonight?
He is picking. And guess what? The College Game Day starts at 2:30 today.
Afternoon.
Wow. Did you guys know about this?
I knew because they're going to be in Columbus tomorrow. So they're doing 2 shows this weekend.
So they're getting double. Yeah. I don't know if they're taking.
Are they doing 4 hours?
I don't know if they're taking Gillis with them. Yeah. So the game starts. The game starts at 7. 7 Central or 7 Eastern? It's 7 Central.
No, it's Eastern. Indiana's Eastern.
So 6,
but it's
Central.
It's 7 Central here, I believe.
Whatever.
The game day starts at 2:30 Central.
The local time here, I got them on my favorite teams.
That's 4.5 hours, guys.
I'm a hater. Here, I'm pulling it up on my.
Yeah,
CBS.
7 Central, 8 Eastern.
8 Eastern.
Yeah.
Dude. They're out there in the cold too. I'm gonna tell you right now.
That's gonna be awesome. I can't wait.
That stadium, talk about a wind tunnel. Like, that place gets cold.
This is my favorite game tonight.
Of the weekend?
Yeah.
Did you hear about our bet?
Indiana, Notre Dame. No.
So I got Indiana. Garrett's got ND. Loser's got to take Jimmy and the winner to lunch.
It's our first bet.
First bet. Lunch on the
Jimmy
line.
just gets a free ride either way.
Exactly.
He's the big
Good
winner.
point. He's a smart guy.
Awesome. He is. He tried to wag at himself to one of us, and I go, no. This is me and Gary. He goes, "Well, I'll go to lunch," and I'm like, "All right, dude, come with, man." Like, it's okay. Of course, like, you're part of. He's part of the show.
Good job by him.
He's that's the difference though. Like, if Gary wins, we'll probably go to like a nicer place or whatever. If I win, we're going to Burger King, or we're going.
You can't take him to
Whopper.
Burger King.
He would
Whopper
like Burger
Whopper?
King. You like Burger
Everyone
King.
would like Burger King, but you're taking people out to lunch. You
Where
can't
would
take
where
them to
would
Burger
where,
King.
where would I have to take you, Gary?
Take him to get one of your lovely new sandwiches that you found.
No, let's go to Porky Butts. I'll take you to Porky Butts.
There you go. That's fine.
We'll do barbecue.
That's doable.
All right.
And then I want to go to Capitol Grill here if I win. What's that place called?
What's he talking about?
Not sure.
Capitol Point. Sarah Baker Hansen was talking about it. The steak place. It came out there, dude. It came out.
I don't know. Maybe
the
I'm
Chop
missing
House.
something.
The Chop House.
Oh,
Yeah.
the committee.
Oh.
the committee.
You
The
cannot
committee.
take somebody there for lunch.
He can.
Yeah, no, he can't.
No, I can't.
No, he
I
can't.
can't.
No, he can't.
Mm-mm.
I want him to.
But if I'm going,
You would feel bad.
No, I wouldn't.
Yes, you would.
I would not.
Yes,
not
you
for a
would.
second.
He'd
Nope.
buy you. He'd
not
buy you
for
a
a
$120 steak.
Not for a second.
He'd buy you a $120 steak, and
Not-
you'd be like, I don't know. I
not-
feel like I
can
owe
I
you
can
something.
I
Not-
take half of it home?
For
Yeah.
not for 1 minute. I'd get oysters for the table, maybe a little foie gras. Get a lobster bisque.
You wouldn't be buying any of it.
Lobster
exactly.
bisque for lunch?
Exactly.
You can't do that.
I definitely can
No,
do that.
You can't order all this extra junk when he's paying for it and it's expensive. No,
I definitely can, and I would.
that's crazy.
As Steve King, I went or I just, we've done some, company.
Where'd you go? Where'd you go?
We've done some company lunches before.
Where'd he
and-
take you?
And I, over when I was in Lincoln, we went to do some company lunches and whatnot. And I faked them out. I go, I got the most expensive thing on the menu. Yeah. And then I faked them out and I pulled back.
So you didn't get that.
I didn't get it, but with Gary, I would.
So why didn't you not get it?
Because
Why-
that's a
why-
little different. Gary and I,
It's
got
not
a different,
different.
It's a little different.
It's-
Gary and I got a little different relationship,
Seems the same.
With Gary, I can rub it in. I can rub it in with Gary.
Well, then you got to put it on the line too. You got to be
To
willing.
committee? Oh, I ain't going to committee. We're going to Porky Butts.
you
Go ND.
got to be willing to pay the price.
Different strokes for different folks.
Captain says a friend came into town and saw Gratz Steakhouse sign and said, "What the hell is Go Rats? Gratz Steakhouse." Nice. You guys should go to a classic Omaha steakhouse.
Well, that for lunch we'd be going to one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, well,
You'd be introduced to the drover.
go to the Drover. You go to Gratz. You go to Cassio's.
You're just laying it on me right now.
Yeah, you go to all those places.
It's like if I was talking to you about how you go to Wolfie's, go to Superdog, go to Jimmy Jude's, go to Johnny's, go to Jimmy's,
Not in the last couple of days.
go to Portillo's.
I do love Portillo's.
It's funny. Like there are nice names here in Omaha. Like in Chicago, just everything's named after a dude.
Yeah,
Just
Jimmy.
everything is a
and
last
and
name.
everybody's named Jimmy.
Jimmy, Johnny, Gene, Jude. And then there's the Italian, the Berghoff, the Agostinos.
Dude, you're not gonna get that. You're not gonna take advantage of Gary like that. That's not gonna happen.
We'll go to.
I've already
First of all,
already
he is
Trojan.
lying. He's not taking you to the committee chop house.
I've already Trojan horsed my way onto a
Mr.
show.
I bring cookies to the party guy. That's
He hasn't told me. He hasn't told me where he's taking me.
He's not.
I
he's
just
not
said-
taking me.
There's a cool place that has a Chicago sounding name, Gondolfos.
That's a good place. You should
Never
go
heard
there.
of
That's a good place.
It's good. But what you hear that name? What do you think?
Gondolfos?
Yeah.
What are we gonna go to?
Gandolfos.
Are we gonna go to the
Gandolfos.
Eye of
That's what you need the
Mordor?
accent.
I was about to say we're gonna go to the Eye of Mordor. I mean, we're gonna find the ring.
We're
going to
So I tell you
Gandalf's?
that name, and you have no idea what it is, which is fair.
It's
Is
just
it a
sa-
German-
It's just a sandwich.
Sandwich place.
You could have said, "I bet it is a dark steakhouse."
That's what it sounds
where,
like.
It's
where
not.
sometimes people bring their own knives to cut the steak.
That's not true.
I want a mortadella
Although Brother
sandwich.
Sebastian is still back there, I guess. Yeah, you could probably get that there.
A mortadella.
Yeah.
I love mortadella.
Get a little-
Have you ever
get
bought
the
a Bull
gabagool.
T-shirt?
No.
Are Bull T-shirts still a thing?
Bowl shirts. Be careful when you say that.
Like, if,
I would like to get a
I saw
pinstripe
some
bowl
bad
shirt.
you
boy
went to-
mowers shirts for sale.
Like
Really? Where?
It was on the Nebraska website. They were selling bull shirts.
I
for
gotta find
the
that. I gotta
pinstripe.
see what they look like.
So this is the difference. They sold out of Nebraska merchandise at the Final Four yesterday.
I heard about this. Yes.
Yeah, they cleaned them out. It was like going to the Taylor Swift concert and you stand in line for the merch tent.
You guys want a mug?
Whoa.
I get you a mug. How about that? My Christmas gift to you:
mug?
a Bad Boy Mowers Pinstripe Bowl mug.
Interesting.
Are you the kind of guy who, if you're going to a bowl game or an event like this,
Yes.
an NCAA event,
Yes.
not only will you get the merch, but you'll get the merch that has like all the teams on it.
Yes.
I like that.
My
Yeah,
dad
those
buys.
are fun.
I
I
My
like
dad.
those.
My dad buys pins.
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 That's
Yeah.
good.
Like he's got
Like
a
a
little. He's
collectible.
got a small little collection of
I
pins.
still try to get a College World Series shirt every year.
See, I didn't. I've been to 2 now, and I got a quarter zip last year. It was
There you
pretty cool. And I have a Final Four quarter zip too.
maybe this
but-
year get a Tommy Bahama shirt.
I actually have bought a
We're still angling for those, by the way.
I have bought a Tommy Bahama Nebraska shirt.
Yeah, they went away.
Well, they're pricey.
You know, I tell stories about
They're a bit
the baseball village like stores, like the little pop-up shops over there,
Yes.
and how cool they are. How you can just find like a 2007 Philadelphia Phillies like AL East or NL East champion
Yeah,
like
it's very
T-shirt,
random.
like just such the most random stuff ever.
Very random.
I found a 2003 Chicago Cubs NLCS T-shirt there.
Ooh.
Oh, that's a cursed
know.
shirt.
I didn't buy it.
Smart man.
Cursed shirt.
So, because like you would go like to Hy-Vee, and even in like the Hy-Vee sells gear, like like the 90th and Center one will sell West Side stuff because they're right there. Like you would see a Bull T-shirt. I remember back in the day, I've seen no advertisements for like Bull T-shirts.
Damn it. We got to get some of those. We got to
Those-
get that going.
There's like some popular stores that like pop-up shops in Nebraska that like students thrift at. They want to find like 1990 Orange Bowl
I know.
like memorabilia. Like
Yeah.
that's what's in right now. If you're
I know
wearing
the kids are
anything
super
orange,
into the like the starter jackets.
super into that stuff, and like the t-shirts and the hats and stuff like that. Like the Orange Bowl.
Hey, these starter jackets coming back. Oh, be still my heart.
It's back. Oh yeah.
There's
it's
like
back.
kids in high school wearing starter jackets.
100%. They love them.
You remember that Bryce McGowan's?
They had to start
coat?
making them again. Like Starter may have restarted as a company.
I
or
wanted to
maybe
get.
it's
I
just
wanted to get
Nike.
a really basic like Nebraska pullover thing that was like an old school with the 3 stripes, like kind of V-neck-ish, like, but it was a pullover like fleece. I couldn't find it. Like almost like what you like Lou Piniella, like what Lou Piniella would wear.
The big
Gare?
jacket.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but he
No,
would
he-
wear a pullover. He would
Yeah,
wear a jacket
it
and a
wasn't
pullover.
Yeah, it wasn't like super like a quarter zip.
You
Yeah,
never had the
But
jersey,
it
that's
didn't.
for
It was
sure.
a quarter zip without the zip, and then he also had.
Okay.
Then he also had a full coat.
Gotcha.
Update on Bull T-shirts.
Full shirts.
Bull shirts at a local Husker place. They are already on discount.
Look at that.
Uh-huh.
Look at that. How
Would
much?
you-
21, 25?
Hold on, let me see if I can see the price on this.
Exciting.
No prices.
Perfect. They're free. Awesome. Hey,
Oh,
guys,
so
you can get a hoodie.
Can you imagine if they had like a pinstripe bowl T-shirts, but like they were the ones that they printed out the wrong teams? Like it could be this team or that team. It's the ones they send off to like those
the
places.
mistake
Or
shirts
just
are
the
the
ones-
ones.
shirts,
Oh,
yeah.
they just have the conference.
I
Where
would
it's
like
like-
to go to a third world country and be walking down the street and say, "Wait a minute, we didn't win the Super Bowl in that season."
No, dude. I mean, the
What do you
Buffalo
mean?
Bills dynasty lives forever in those areas of the world.
The 2024 New York Yankees World Series champions. Congrats on number 28. What the heck? What the heck is going on there?
Dude, I mean, can you imagine a kid walking around with an Iowa and Iowa North Carolina pinstripe bowl? What?
Or an Iowa College Football Playoff shirt. That was one LJ Scott away from happening in 2015. That could have been fun.
You run into a kid and you're like, "Whoa, it wasn't a dream. We did beat Miami in 2001. It's a great looking shirt."
Yeah, I don't think they made the shirts for that one.
Or then
You leave a couple just to be safe.
I don't know. I don't even know if he would have needed the template.
So I looked at Bad Boy Mowers pinstripe merch, and the top link is to eBay.
I don't think that's good.
Yeah.
No, not good
Is
at
it
all.
on Legends Locker? What's that? No, that's Rutgers in Miami. You want to get some Rutgers in Miami pinstripe bowl merch?
So they hold on to past, so you could get old.
You
school.
can get old school pinstripe bowl merch. Here, let's
Can you
go.
buy a 1962 Gotham?
What are they going to do?
Bowl
I mean,
T-shirt?
this is the last opportunity we're going to have to talk
Here,
about this.
here, look at this. This is Facebook Marketplace 2017 pinstripe bowl.
Dear God.
You can get an Iowa 2017 pinstripe bowl championship hat if you want.
What will
Gross.
what will Nebraska and or its opponent Boston College do to commemorate the fact that they're playing at Yankee Stadium? Be a sticker? Will there be some different jersey?
Miss out on the really big portal entry and then go and get a bunch of smaller portal entries?
Well, they're already doing that.
Would this be a fan in the?
Oh yeah, Mr. What's Weirdo in the bleachers? Yeah.
All right, this is how we're gonna do it.
Aaron Judge.
No. It's
Dylan Raiola.
Hey, Gunner! Got to luck. Got to luck.
If they
got to luck.
If they roll called, actually, I would really enjoy that. That would really be cool.
We do need a roll call.
We do. That'd be great.
Or okay, let's see.
Can you imagine in the back? Is that Matt? Is that Nelson or is that Ives? I can't tell. Which one is that?
That's a long roll call. We're talking about,
It'd
talking about 40
He
days.
goes in the coaching staff.
Yeah.
Matt Rule. He turns around while he's on the sidelines right before play.
So the
He turns
stadium,
around, he goes,
the stadium is oriented from home plate to like left field, right?
It's terrible. There's not one
Yeah.
good seat in that house.
Yeah. It
Have you
seems
seen
awful.
the layout?
I've watched the Pinstripe Bowl before, but yeah.
The best seats in the house is where those fans mugged Mookie.
Well, it'd be like down
Seriously.
down the third baseline.
That's the
Right.
only seat where you're like elevated and you're on the 50. Is that area.
Where
It's
they
like-
mugged Mookie.
Where Mookie went to go and get the foul ball and then they grabbed his arm and everything.
Oh,
Those
no.
seats.
Oh yeah.
Those seats. Those are the
You'd be behind an end
No,
zone.
it's oriented the other way, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, I
You'd
thought
be
it was
behind-
Because
diamond.
No.
Mookie was down the right field
Yeah.
line.
So it goes from home
All right,
plate
now
out
we're
to
done.
center field.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
that's what I'm saying.
The best, they said that the sight lines in the
Look.
200 and 300 aren't bad.
Right here. Like
Yeah, those don't seem like very good
that.
seats.
That's where Mookie got mugged. Right here,
Scene
109,
of the crowd.
and then you're right on the 50.
But it's like really far away from the field.
I know it's a terrible layout. It's awful. If you want to be close to the field, you're
Actually,
in the back.
you're probably better off sitting in Monument Park.
I got a question for you. What seat on this field is close to the field? You're a million miles away. Every single area.
I say, Monument Park, left center field bleachers.
No, because then you have a terrible depth perception.
And
out there.
they have some decks up there too.
I think the 200 and 300 level are
Probably,
the best
yeah,
seats
yeah. Has to be.
between the foul pole and then maybe back to the 10.
What was
The
Bring-
Mookie seats, by the way, you'd be looking over the sideline.
yeah.
You'd be at like the
you
like
would
the
be.
5 yard
saying.
line.
would
It's too
be.
far away.
Yeah, you would be
Yeah,
looking over.
that's
the
just like
sideline.
when they had the outdoor classic at then TD, people wanted to sit low.
Yeah, it's stupid.
Yeah, you can't see.
Yeah, it's like for hockey games, don't sit
Yeah.
low. You
But
don't,
it's funny. Like you make a great point, but you would think that the price of the tickets would reflect that. Those like field level seats where you're lower, but you see less, are more expensive.
they're taking advantage of your stupidity.
Yeah, taking
so-
advantage of the fact that you don't know. Hey, by the way, do we want a Notre Dame Rutgers 2013 Pinstripe Bowl pin?
Maybe get that for your dad.
Yeah, he'd like that.
although that was, according to this, the second best attended Pinstripe Bowl ever. The top was Penn State Boston College in 2014. Most of those being Penn State fans. So Notre Dame brought fans, Penn State brought fans. It doesn't look like Wisconsin, Miami, Iowa. They haven't really brought much. I mean, it's really lacked over the last couple
You
of
want to
years
make
here.
your
So Nebraska has an opportunity to show that it'll be, one of the biggest brands to play at the Pinstripe Bowl. What are we thinking for attendance? Can they get 40,000?
The weather's good. Well, it's going to rain. I would say 38. 38, 614.
38 would be the best out of the last handful of years.
Okay.
So
A lot of
That would-
East
that'd be-
Coast alumni
that'd be a-
for
that'd be a
Nebraska on a
good mark.
Saturday.
what did the Duke Indiana game do? for the
Duke,
Pinstripe Bowl?
Indiana, 37, 12, 18.
Really?
Yep, in 2015.
A lot of Dookies like New York City.
Dookies.
So that probably helped.
Yeah, you want to make your loved ones happy on Christmas? Get them a Duke and Indiana T-shirt
You could do it.
honoring the Pinstripe Bowl
Yes.
for only the cheap dollar amount of $31.99.
That's it.
That's it.
What a great deal.
I'm going to say that the celebration of recognizing that you are playing at Yankee Stadium is going to be a Aaron Judge bat flip from a Nebraska player that scores a touchdown as he will go down in front of his
Yeah,
own team.
I think you got to
And-
do the swing and the
Yeah, and then because you scored the touchdown, so you do the swing, and then you just let the football go.
yeah,
Like
that's
the
not
Cole,
bad.
the Cole Komet.
Cole Komet does
Yeah.
that for his
Cole
celebration.
Komet does
right?
it.
Yeah.
Well, he hasn't done it that much this
What
year.
if somebody went pitcher? What if somebody went submarine pitcher?
Ooh.
They wind up.
Chad Bradford?
They wind up and they go. Yeah.
Yeah. Why not, man? While we're
I'm
at
trying
it.
to think of a Yankee
what if
submariner.
What if
Yankees don't have very many. They haven't had many submariners in their time.
I would,
no,
If-
not
if-
that,
Tim Hill this year.
not
if
that
so-
franchise.
if there was a football player in this game that knew what Chad Bradford threw like and did that, I would love them long time. I would pay for
Maybe
their
they just
NIL.
love Moneyball. They love Moneyball.
That's
They
true.
love the
They all
movie
just
Moneyball.
sit around a table in the end zone and they just start pointing at each other.
There's got to be some various references throughout the game. Did-
Nebraska enters the field with Enter Sandman as a tribute to Mariano Rivera.
Nice.
Don't tell some media members that.
What? Do they hate Mariano?
No, they hate Sandman.
What?
Yeah, there's always a conglomerate of Lincoln people who roll their eyes when Sandman gets played at a
No. That's Sandstorm.
Sandstorm.
That's
Yeah,
Sandstorm,
that's wrong.
which is
See, look
also
at me.
in
bad take. Hey, that's a bad take.
Also, an
Bad
incorrect
take.
criticism, by the way. That song is awesome.
It's incredible. And can I make an argument that Joker and the Thief is the greatest out of timeout song to be played at a stadium ever?
You could make it. It's wrong, but
What do you think it is?
it's got to be something with bells.
Hell's Bells?
Hell's Bells?
Everybody's coming back out. You're getting ready for a defensive stand. Gung.
Yeah, I would say for football. I agree. For basketball, though, basketball or hockey.
Same thing for basketball.
No. For basketball or hockey.
Every time over the last several years when we've had a big game, I sit next to one of the people who's in control of the entire thing, and I get over the deal and I go, bells, hit the bells, hit the bells. Hit the bells.
You know what I want.
So sometimes they listen to me, sometimes they don't.
We find out that the DJ isn't the DJ. It's just Happer in a back room, like
Bro,
in Practical Jokers.
they
Like,
gotta-
hey, go ahead.
They
go
got
ahead
to put
and
a
play
leash on me.
Sandstorm.
I'm calling too many shots up there.
There was like
You
a
got
week.
too much power.
There was a week at Warner Park where Andy Popo, regular audio guy there, was gone, and I was filling in for him, and I played Hell's Bells in the late innings, and they walked off after I played it, I think 2 or 3 times that week.
Oh, okay.
It got
Wow.
the team amped up. It was a good run of
Do you
Hell's
like-
Bells.
Do you like the "Can you feel?
I do.
I do like that.
I do.
Can you feel?
That's not how it goes.
Can you feel?"
That's not how it goes.
Dude.
That's not how it goes. But yes, I do like that.
Yeah,
I do like it.
I'm a Joker and the Thief guy.
I've not heard the Can You Feel It anywhere else.
No,
Can you feel?
Like maybe in between a timeout, but not the way Nebraska
you mean
started
like
using
anywhere else
it,
around
that
the
I've been to
country.
basketball games at.
Creighton uses it sometimes, but it kind of has become synonymous with Nebraska.
Creighton had to change
Do you-
their song, which was unfortunate.
Do you like Red Kingdom?
Power is gone.
I
I don't really.
Red.
Tech Nine is a dear friend, but
He's a dear friend.
He's a dear friend.
He's a dear. What a wonderful human.
But
Tech Nine.
I could have gone without the Nebraska version of Red Kingdom.
yeah.
Yep.
But the other part
could have gone
yeah.
without it.
Have a great holiday.
You have a great
This will
week,
be the
guys.
first Christmas with Sophie at the house.
That's right. She is excited for all of the gifts.
How many
Zach-
pictures have you taken of her with Santa or in her Christmas outfits that
Zero.
will be used against her in 17 years?
Zero Santa appearances so far. I just don't think we're probably ready for that. I don't think we're ready for that yet.
Is this your child?
Yes, my child.
Okay.
Yep.
First child.
First child.
Congrats.
She's almost 5 months old,
Oh wow.
and we don't need to see Santa yet.
Okay.
We don't need to see Santa yet.
Yeah.
But we'll
Yeah.
definitely throw her in some crazy
I was
stuff. Take
I
some
was
pictures.
6 years old when I first saw Santa.
6 years.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're
'Cause-
far away.
Because when I was 3, they tried doing it 3, 4, 5, and I cried I just cried.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it. Didn't have the
I don't think we're ready.
didn't have the gumption or the chutzpah to sit on the big man's lap.
Chutzpah.
So
Yeah, it'll be a good week. It'll be good to kind of just not talk.
Merry Christmas. Thanks for the great 2 weeks. Right there. Everyone to see it
Yep.
in
Right
unison.
There.
All right.
There it is.
Have a good show, boys.
See you guys. That is the crossover powered by Ever Level Concrete Repair in Omaha. at everlevelconcrete.com. We'll be back and start things off on a Friday next.
It's the Connor Happer Show. Are we sure we want to do this?
Could you, make an announcement that we're ready?
It's the Connor Happer Show on 1620, The Zone.
All right, here we are. Welcome in. Happy Friday. The final edition. Well, the final edition before Christmas. It really feels like if and when you come back from Christmas that even if it is still in 2024, that it is the new year. This will not be our final show of 2024. There will be one more.
Uno mas.
One. I believe we're going to settle on one more. We're going to take next week off and we're going to recharge. And we are very, very excited for that. And then we will be back on Monday the 30th. We'll talk about Nebraska's bowl win or loss, whatever happened. And whatever has happened in the basketball world over the last week and the college football playoff and all of those things that have changed. And then I think New Year's Eve we'll have to figure something out, and then we're off New Year's Day. And then we'll truly refresh the year when we come back on the 2nd of January and let it ride from there. So this is kind of it, but not really for 2000.
New Year's Eve is always a tough one when it's a weekday. It's always a weird one to
smack dab in the
out.
middle of the
Yeah.
week. So get everything. I mean, we could jam holidays into today. You know, people usually do. It's a classic sports talk radio thing to do like a Festivus today.
Festivus for the rest of us.
Yeah, the airing of grievances. You guys can send those our way if you'd like to. Because I believe, isn't that Christmas Eve or the day before Christmas Eve? We get the Festivus pulled, things like that. We won't really get the chance to do that because we're just off the entirety of next week. So appreciate y'all being with us all year, all week, all season, whatever you might tune in for. It's greatly appreciated. Today on a Friday show, we will chat with Brian Munson here coming up in about 20-25 minutes. Talk about the recruiting, the portal, the recruiting, the portal, things of that nature, how Nebraska's doing, where they're headed in that category. Brian Christopherson of Husker 247 will be along right after that. Matt Rule is having a press conference as we speak. His final media availability in Lincoln before they head off. He did pass along today that there will be at least two Huskers that you may have planned on being there for the bowl game who are not in the transfer portal. That will not be there. Sean Callahan tweeted this out. Micah Mazuka and Isaiah Nair, they will not play for Nebraska in the Pinstripe Bowl. So that's a couple pretty big losses. Nebraska already, down offensive linemen quite a bit. Here's what Rule had to say on Dante Dowdell. He says, quote, "There's nothing sudden about any of this," Nebraska coach Matt Rule says about the portal exit, speaking specifically about the departure of Dante Dowdell. Rule says players are reacting to offers made before they go in the portal. To be clear, he's not complaining about it. He's definitely not complaining about it. It is definitely a new reality. Rule was also asked about Nebraska volleyball from last night, losing to his alma mater, Penn State, which we will talk about plenty on today's show. Quote, "It's too soon after last night to be talking about those guys." And he was asked actually if he was excited to watch his alma mater play in the college football playoff, which is something that happens tomorrow morning. He was like, "Well, I'm not talking about Penn State right now. They broke my heart last night, so not doing it." Rocking a hard place, I think, for sure on him. So we'll have more if any quotes come out from that, and our guest lineup: Munson, BC, and Stephen M. Sipple will be along in the noon hour. That is the lineup, powered by the Rooferees at John Higgins Weather Guard. Would love to hear from you all. 402-951-1620 on the 42 Degrees of Source hotline. You can call or text that number. Tweet at Happer Show, at Connor Happer on the JTech Construction Zone Twitter feed. Email Connor at 1620thezone.com on the Equitable Bank Zone inbox. And we say good morning for the final time before we leave to the YouTube streamers today. I like that. J-Man's already got the crustaceans in the chat. Can I get the crustaceans in the chat? Crabs, shrimp, lobster, whatever you want to do, throw them in the chat. We will talk about Nebraska's upcoming Pinstripe Bowl, which will happen 1 week from tomorrow in the Bronx. Now, usually, if we're doing a game preview type of day on a Friday, we will have our keys and P's, and we will have our history lesson. So, a couple things on those subjects. First of all, keys. I have no idea. We could do that.
The keys? There are none.
I don't know. I have no idea because I don't know who's playing for either team, and I don't know what's going on, and nobody has really talked about this at all. Block, tackle, don't fumble, throw touchdowns, do good things, whatever it might be. Those are the keys to the game. So that segment's over. Picks, we'll make our picks for the college football play at the 4 college football playoff games that we have set up for you both tonight, starting tonight in South Bend, Indiana, and then going all throughout the day tomorrow. And then we will pick the Pinstripe Bowl as we go on throughout the show. But our history lesson has proven difficult as well. Nebraska and Boston College have never played each other. They've never locked horns on the gridiron before, which is mildly surprising to me, given that these are a couple programs who have been around for a long time. No, it's not like Nebraska just hasn't played East Coast schools. They certainly have done that as well. They've traveled out to the East Coast as well, but they've never played each other. So they're meeting for the first time. So instead of a Boston College Nebraska history lesson, today we will take a look at Nebraska versus unorthodox stadiums. Nebraska versus whether it's baseball stadium, and most of these are baseball stadiums. Nebraska versus unorthodox stadiums. I came up with, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them in the last 62 years. 7 of them in the last 62 years. So that's dating back to the 1962 Gotham Bowl, which leads us to the Pinstripe Bowl today. So we will have that coming up in the noon hour. Good to have you here on a Friday. Elsewhere, there was an interesting study that kind of dropped yesterday of the most valuable college, not necessarily football programs, but athletic programs, athletic departments. So we'll dive into those numbers a little bit today. Nebraska did get a commitment from, I'm going to try it, Nizea Hunter, potentially, maybe Nizea Hunter. Anyway,
good attempt.
He caught 40 balls at Cal last year in his freshman season, 578 yards. He's a big body, 6'2", wide receiver, makes tough contested catches, looks pretty good. Definitely one of Nebraska's top portal targets at wide receiver. That is a heck of a pickup for them. Now, we ask the question of what's next. Postseason volleyball, absolutely insane. I was locked in and set to talk about how, hey, well, maybe Nebraska dropped the third, but it's they're finding their way, and especially when it was 22-16 in the fourth, and then having match point twice in the fourth. Was all ready to come in today and be like, wow, what a great response, and I can't wait till the coronation on Sunday in the national championship. But it was not to be. A 5-set loss last night for Nebraska volleyball. That's right. If you're just waking up right now and you missed it because that match ended after 11 o'clock.
Quite late.
I think it was after 11 o'clock last night, Peter.
The poor East Coasters.
Yeah.
That carried over into today.
If you got 12 hours of sleep and you're just waking up, I'm sorry to tell you, Nebraska volleyball lost last night. And so we'll dive into that during the show, what to do and what not to do about that. I do have some video from yesterday's press conference where both of Nebraska's coordinators spoke and Dylan Raiola spoke, as well as Ty Robinson as well. Creighton plays tomorrow. I do have 2 tickets that I'm looking to part ways with during the show today. If anybody is interested, we will have a way for you to get into tomorrow's Creighton-Villanova game throughout the show today. Last night in the NFL, we had a fair catch free kick. I love weird football stuff.
I'm not even going to pretend to act like I knew that this existed in the rule book. I had no idea.
So
didn't have a clue.
You know what? Like I've seen the free kick happen before, but I never knew the situation to get to it. I always wondered like how. I must have never seen it play out in live.
What did it say? Like 2003 or something was the last time it happened?
Well, they happen like, I don't want to say relatively often. They happen sometimes, but you're oftentimes at a part of the field where you're not able to actually score points off of it, and things like that. So the longest previous fair catch free, this is a fair catch free kick, was a 52-yarder by Paul Hornig of the Green Bay Packers in 1962.
Oh God.
That was the longest free kick in NFL history last night. So they've happened sporadically kind of over the years. It was so Harbaugh said last night that he had it, and he was like, this is the best thing ever. I've just been waiting for this. In 2013, when he was the coach of the Niners, he had Phil Dawson try a 71-yard fair catch kick, but he missed. Harbaugh said of the thought process, quote, "This is our chance. This is our moment. I wanted to try it from 65 yards. He is going to be telling everybody about this until he dies. He's going to be extremely excited about this forever."
This is happening.
So the
hilarious.
fair catch free kick was went into play last night. We'll look at Nebraska basketball at the Diamond Head Classic over the next week. They better probably come back from that without a loss. And we'll look at the college football playoff, which begins tonight. And also, just a refresher from yesterday, I can't believe eligibility is fake now. We now live in a world where not yet, but the precedent has been set that basically there's going to be no rules whatsoever. So we'll feel like that needs probably a couple days worth of conversation. We'll dive back into that today. Here we are. Get all your takes, your thoughts, your complaints. It's basically Festivus. Send them to us before we get out of here on a Friday show today. We'll be back after this. Thanks for joining us here on the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone. Around the NRG Media offices today, I believe we are having a nacho party.
Nacho bar and putt-putt competition.
Yeah. So if somebody just barges into the studio during the show, it probably won't be. I mean, it definitely wouldn't be the first time it happened, but wouldn't be out of the ordinary today. Yes, there is a putt-putt golf course outside of our door.
We might just eat nachos on the stream. Who knows?
Seriously, I don't think there's any rules today.
We might go wild.
Isn't that pretty much the case for like corporate America though? On a day like today,
Yeah,
like, it's just like, I don't think anybody's really working.
Once you hit the 20s in the month of December, you're like, it's pretty much Christmas. Like
Yeah.
we've arrived.
Let me circle back with you after the new year. How's that sound? So yeah, I think that's kind of the mode that we're in right now. All right, Munson's coming up here in just a couple of minutes. Let's talk about it. The elephant in the room, the volleyball from last night.
Let's just get it over with.
I was already, in fact, I even had it written down because it's late at night and I wanted to get this show all set up. It was like the third set. And then I had it written down as like, wow, Nebraska volleyball just punishes, just beats the living hell out of Penn State into the ground. And then I watched them lose the third, and I changed it on my sheet, and it said Nebraska stumbles a little bit in the third, but they picked it back up in the fourth, and it certainly looked like that for a long time. Like I said, 22-16 in the fourth, and then 2 match points. Nebraska had previously, the stat that they flashed up there, won 103 straight postseason matches, went up 2-0. They had never been reverse swept in the postseason. I'll answer that question on Twitter. That just came my way here in just 1 second. But a shocking result from Louisville, Kentucky last night. Here's what I'd like to say about this. So we do this in sports, and especially when, I think we're specifically talking about the NCAA volleyball tournament, and we're talking about the NCAA basketball tournament, both men's and women's at this point. Oftentimes you look at programs, especially with the amount of success that Nebraska volleyball has had in their past, and you say, well, they need to win national championships. Otherwise, it's a disappointment. I think volleyball has a really unique and specific, difference to it, given that over the last 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and you could really look at it at any one point, the sport has changed dramatically. And it's changed from a perspective of everybody cares now. I guess I shouldn't say everybody, but many, many more care. And so I think it's a testament to Nebraska to be able to get to be able to be at the point where their program has stayed the course. They're routinely in national championship matches. They're routinely in the Final Four, and they're every year like past the Sweet 16. But as you guys have noticed over the last decade, it's gotten harder. It's gotten harder for them. And that's not because Nebraska's recruiting worse. That's not because Nebraska's slipping as a program. In fact, they're recruiting better than they've ever recruited before. And, they have number 1 5-star players like across their roster. And I think you look around and you say, wow, everybody else is a little bit better. So when you get to the Final Four and it's all blue bloods, and it's Penn State and it's Pittsburgh and it's Louisville, and all of which who deserve to be there and have impenetrable resumes, like they're fantastic teams, it comes down to the margins. It comes down to very, very, very few things. And sometimes it just comes down to who gets hot. It's disappointing that Nebraska wasn't able to finish that off. They had every opportunity to. But people are like, well, this is we make these sweeping proclamations based off of how you do in the NCAA tournament compared to what your expectations are. And I just think once you get to the Final Four with those 4 teams, it's just really difficult to win a national championship. And it's going to be really difficult for whichever team does win a national championship, whether it's Penn State or Louisville. And it often, and I think there's a lot of it that's sort of random about it as well. Nebraska didn't do the things that they had to do to be able to finish that match off in the third, the fourth, and then they were beaten pretty soundly in the fifth because they lost all the momentum from the way the fourth ended. And so I think, honestly, and I'm not trying to excuse Nebraska or whatever, but I do think it's a reflection of the sport. I think it's a reflection of how everyone has talented players. And the transfer portal, I think, has opened a little bit of that up, and the growth of club volleyball and all of these things in the country. It's the sport is absolutely blown up. Nebraska hasn't won a national championship since 2017, and you might look at that and you might say, "Well, what the heck is going on? They've won a championship in what 7-8 seasons now? That's kind of crazy." I think getting to a national championship match as much as they have, which is what 4 times since now,
And then
making it to a final 3 times since, and then 2 more I think in the final 4.
Yeah, 3 runners up since then. And then you put it in the context of that was Penn State's first Final Four at all since that 2017
and that's been
season.
just as
And that's
strong of a program as any around the country.
And it's not like they've really dipped or anything. They've been in contention that whole time. It's just that hard to make it that far consistently.
Exactly. So I think it's a large reflection of that. I don't think there's anything to look at and be like, well, has Cook lost it, or what's going on what happened in the 4th set that they choked it so bad or anything like that. Like I said, I think it's generally a pretty good reflection of the sport. So, disappointing, no doubt about it. And all the things that we said yesterday on the show were all of those players who had not won a national championship, but specifically Lexi Rodriguez, who's one of the more decorated players that they've ever seen.
She'll be up there as one of the best to not win one.
Doesn't get to win a national championship. Doesn't get to play in another national championship. Which I think it was sort of hard to swallow. I found it interesting, and just sort of how Nebraska was like, how they were kind of reacting during the moment last night. They kept zooming in on them. They had great cameras and all that stuff, and they're like, they're like imploring each other to kind of stay positive the entire time, and it's really, really difficult. And then you look at the Penn State side, and obviously they're just building momentum, and it's just a little bit of a different vibe over there. But that's what happens. That's game dictated, and stuff like that. So shocking and sad for Nebraska fans that it didn't go that way for them last night. But we do get a really good one on Sunday with the national championship, if people are still interested. And I think more and more around here now, it's not just Nebraska volleyball, it's volleyball. The sport has grown. Like I said,
we're going to get the first female coach champion.
There you go.
That'll be really cool.
Yeah. And so we'll see. I would imagine that would demand a pretty large television audience on Sunday, even though Nebraska is not going to be in the game. All right. We can have more on that. If you guys want to get in touch with the show, please feel free to do so. 402-951-1620. We'll come back with Brian Munson of HuskerOnline.com coming up next on 1620 The Zone.
Brian Munson.
Hey, long call. Comfy left zoom buster. 63 bang. Z Maui. Alert. Paradise Z Burger Y wrap on one.
Husker Online on the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone.
All right. It's Friday and the last Friday, definitely the last Friday before the new year that we'll be here as we have our final chat of 2024 with Brian Munson of HuskerOnline.com. Munson, hello. How are you?
Oh, it's all so nostalgic, buddy. And I was going to tell you, enjoy spending time with that young family of yours, and happy holidays to you and all your listeners. It is the last time for us this year, so let's send them all out on a bang.
Yeah, I mean, well, there's a lot. There's a lot going on. Once again, you thought the recruiting class was wrapped up, and then you could kind of sit back and celebrate for a little while or whatever it might be. Not so much the case. The portal's moving all the time. Nebraska's in contact with literally everyone in the portal, it seems.
They are.
Yeah.
And I think that what we're seeing here, too, because I just got asked a question on Red Sea Scrolls a second ago by somebody that's like, hey, the wide receiver Hunter committed, yesterday, and here he is on campus today. Like, what's kind of going on? Well, there's all sorts of nuances to this portal kind of visiting and recruiting and all that good stuff. Like, even guys that are coming to town, they're not automatic takes. You get unlimited official visitors now. So Nebraska knows the guys that they would take kind of coming in, and they have the guys that they're kind of need some kind of reassurances with, and to understand like what the price tag is going to be. It says, and what the eyeball test, and are they a good fit personality wise, like in the room? There are evaluation guys that are still like coming in that have to like go through the process, right? That they have to kind of figure it out whether or not it's a good fit or not. But like a guy like Hunter, who's literally there today and committed last night, it's like that was an automatic.
Yeah.
That was just like one of their top guys that they could bring in. It's like the same thing could kind of be said about Dane Key that'll be coming in, hopefully tonight and be there for tomorrow. So it's really been an interesting process, so to speak. But like the world of college football, buddy, it's just been turned upside down.
No
This
doubt.
process is so wild.
Yeah. The types of players that Nebraska, like I said, it seems to be, basically anybody and everybody at this point, because they have a lot of holes to fill on their roster, and they have to do all this while managing the numbers that are going out, the numbers that they already know are coming in as well. And that's I think a challenge. But you've gotten a couple commits and a couple replacements for the guys that you have lost so far, with Hunter being the top, I think, name. And he was the top target at wide receiver. Am I wrong? It seems that way.
I think between he and Dane Key, it was like
Dane
1A
Key.
and 1B.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those two guys seem to be the top two guys that they were looking at wide receiver.
So that feels like a better position for that group to be in. And then I think you move on to sort of other priorities. You look at offensive line. Nebraska shot and missed with Isaiah World, who ended up at Oregon. What are we looking at that position at that point? It's a desperate need right now.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I've been like a broken record, and I've probably not been that much fun to like listen to on the message boards, because you and I have been talking about it since like week 1, week 2, whatever. Like, they have got to get into the portal and find some guys that are more ready made. And they did bring in Isaiah World, which arguably, probably, that top offensive tackle, essentially like in the portal for teams to kind of go after. And you actually have then the kid from Washington State as well, the Famo, I think is his last name. Probably more of probably a right tackle, probably could swing interior. And then you have like Keegan Trost, who was there, probably left yesterday from Wake Forest, probably, plays more right tackle, maybe getting more looked at as an interior guy by Nebraska. So there are still some names out there, but, missing on World, I think it had to be a bit of an eye opener for Nebraska. I mean, you belly up to the bar, you sharpen your pencil, you offer, I think, the biggest compensation that you can out of the top 3 schools, and still chooses a school that has got more of a culture fit, a little bit more success kind of going on. That's kind of what I kind of alluded to this morning in Tunnel Talk. So it went beyond, the money for him. It had to deal with, the place and the other things that kind of go into the decision. So more often than not, though, it's been about the compensation side, right? Kind of trying to get that bigger compensation, but it didn't matter with World. Nebraska shot their shot, and they still were unable to kind of get that one drained just because more things going on in that decision.
I suppose you could live with that, right?
No, I think that, you know what? I've always said, and I think that you would remember me saying this too, if you get a recruit to commit and his heart's not in it, you're never going to get the most out of that guy.
Mm-hmm.
You really have got to find a great fit between you and the player. Like, you guys got to be on the same page. I mean, you can go out there and offer all these guys, all these cats, and give them the money, but all that's going to happen is you're going to have replacing them again the next year with all this unlimited kind of transfers and ways for them to get out of their current situation. I mean, they can't typically learn to love something like that, and that's just kind of the state of affairs. So you want a guy like World to be honest with himself and choose the place not just based on the money, but based on the fit overall. And that just wasn't with Nebraska.
I imagine this will sort of slow down as Nebraska, takes their operation to the East Coast starting next week, but probably fit in as many as they can as far as visitors this coming weekend. So I guess what do the next few days and I guess week until the new year look like, knowing that there's going to be more portal windows that open up for guys who get eliminated from their bowl games or get eliminated from the playoff and all of these things as well. It seems like an all the time thing.
Yeah. So they've got a window that stays open basically through Saturday this weekend to kind of host visitors. And then it shuts down for the holidays. And then it picks back up again, actually, I think on January 1st. I think there's a window like the 1st through the 5th. And then there's another window that comes up again. So there's like 3 phases. There's another window that comes up again a little bit before the start of the semester and gives them another week to kind of go through. I think it's a total of, 18 days of madness, between all three phases. So Nebraska, like you said, as teams begin to kind of, as the FCS teams be able to, start to get through their playoffs, you'll see more guys jumping out of that. You'll see guys that get done with their bowl games, get done with their playoff games, their seasons come in. D1 guys, Nebraska will have to go ahead and start going through all of that. I'm sure there's several players that are still on the Nebraska roster that are trying to figure out whether or not they're going to be part of that 105, battling for the 105, or have no home, that they'll be jumping out as well. So more madness still to come through middle to late January.
Okay, so as far as the guys they've gotten so far, I mean, I don't even know what day this was when Nowerney, commit. Have we talked about this yet, or was this a week ago?
No, I think it was last Friday. I think it was really kind of strange, right? Because I think last Friday it popped up that he was going into the portal, hadn't really signed the paperwork yet.
But he was no contact, right?
Yeah, it was like, but then it was like a no contact tag, and then like 3 hours later he was a Husker.
Right.
So we have not talked about him. I think that this was obviously the biggest target for Nebraska in the portal. Obviously has a great relationship with Coach Mosey that's there in Nebraska now. Played with his son Isaiah. Very well known around the KC area as well. So like Dawson Merritt, Juju Marks, all those guys kind of all know each other. Another big cherry on top to the 2025 recruiting class Sunday of KC recruits already to add Nowerney back in. Just kind of a baffling situation because that Missouri had to put out a lot and to only get like 37 snaps out of him last year. And the redshirt year was preserved. So kind of, and obviously with Kewan Lacey was a very similar situation. I think he only played 5 games, and I don't think he had but about 26 rushes. So kind of a weird scenario going on with Missouri.
Yeah, wild. I was looking at that when Lacey was in the portal. I mean, when you see a guy have 5 games, not 4, and not 10 or 11 or 12, you're like, what the world happened there? What kind of management is that? Right.
Totally. And, they have picked up a few guys this week. I mean, it seemed like a weekly occurrence between you and I where there'd be like a special teams situation kind of topic to go along with the game before. Gone out and got their punter, the Buschini replacement with Jack McAllister from Washington. Very similar. If you go down and look at like the punting numbers for last year for 2024 season, they're like within 3 or 4 different spots of one another. So very consistent there. And then they go out and get themselves a long snapper as well from New Hampshire, Kevin Galick. That's probably the one thing. I mean, you can go back just to the Iowa game and the missed field goal and the ball skipping across the ground. So long snapper was absolutely a must. There was going to be a specialist heavy. I think that field goal kicker honestly could still get a look as we kind of move through the month of December and move into January too. So may not be done with the specialist quite yet.
Do you think Nebraska will add, I guess this is 2 separate questions, so we'll ask it that way. Do you think they'll add a quarterback out of the transfer portal?
Probably a pretty good chance. Yeah, but that situation obviously has changed a lot with Danny Kalin, moving out, maybe Harbor getting a better, stronger look at tight end, but still kind of a backup guy there at the tight end, at the quarterback position. So yeah, I think you're kind of between things, right? With kind of bringing Latif in and having the other Raiola in the 2027 or 2026 class. You're kind of still looking for some experience there behind Dylan.
How about running back? Do you think they'll bring in another running back?
I think Keywan Lacey would have got a good, strong look, but obviously, when he jumped into the portal and committed it to Ole Miss was not a surprise to me. The first time I saw him in the hallways of Lancaster High School, even being a Nebraska commitment, guess what? He was wearing an Ole Miss t-shirt.
Interesting.
And so there was definitely an affinity there, and Kiffin did not back off all the way down the stretch with him, even being a Nebraska commitment, that they were committing him very strongly. So, I think they would have liked to take a look at Lacey. I think that they would still be looking for a guy to kind of come in and help out because you had a great little combo. I think what really bothered Dowdell was obviously that Emmett looking like the stronger or better suited number 1 guy. And then, Dowdell's really strong, inside the 10, inside the red zone, but maybe not a between the 20s guy, that maybe is more of an Emmett thing. So,
that's fair.
It just, I think it is too. And honestly, I'm not trying to encapsulate the kid and pigeonhole him or anything like that. I'm just trying to say that's what the stats indicate to me based on like his TD runs, not long, and just not getting a lot of yards, per carry. So I think that's he's probably looking for a bigger role.
Elsewhere, I'm going to ask, how would you describe what Texas Tech is doing right now in the transfer portal?
Spending a lot of money.
Where does this come from? Did they dig it up? What's going on? Where did they find this money?
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Like I've read I've not read any like Texas Tech specific like fundraising articles, but I have read some on SMU and what SMU is doing and like their fundraising. Like they're having like a night of fundraising. They're picking up $150 million, and there's multiple guys that are dropping $4 million into the offering plate. So there's just some different kind of scope of type of like the people that are kind of giving the money there. But yeah, you go down through obviously what Texas Tech is doing. I mean, I think they have 14 transfers, most of them for the most part, P4 guys. I think that Quentin Joyner is obviously a guy that Nebraska would have liked to take a look at, but he's a Texas kid. He's a running back out of Manor, Texas. But yeah, I don't really know where this money's kind of coming from. The profit sharing, I don't think is as lucrative, obviously, in the Big 12 as it is in the Big 10 either. So yeah, another question to be asked.
Yeah, I'm just looking at their list right now. I mean, they've cleaned up. They've got every, not every top guy, but pretty much it seems like all of them, and they have several that are still on the hook right now. They have visitors this weekend. It's amazing to sort of watch that. and then watch whatever, how everybody else's approach. Everybody has a different approach to this right now. And it's fascinating to play out.
And that's a great point, because I think you've got the way Texas Tech is doing it. Then I think that you got the way like that Dabo and Clemson are doing it. And you've got to find like a way that it kind of works in the middle. And I think Sean did a great job kind of summarize that in Tunnel Talk. It's like, you got to kind of figure out how much the room needs to cost you. And then you need to figure out from that bucket how you kind of allocate. So think about an org chart. Think about the teams and what their specificity, of what their function is, and then assign a bucket of money that needs to be allocated between those guys. And that you really can't, be overspending too much over that bucket. So there's a professional element here that I'm sure Matt Rule is familiar with. I'm not sure that he thought he would be back into that coming back to college football, but here he is.
All right, Munson. Well, enjoy the last couple weeks of the year here. Enjoy your holiday. Appreciate you as always. Thanks for coming on with us every week, and we'll talk to you very, very soon.
Heading back to the motherland today, man. Have a good holiday. Happy holidays to all your listeners. We'll see you.
There you go. That's Brian Munson of HuskerOnline.com. Dale, by the way, writes in on YouTube. I hope this is so. We got to get this right before this is my New Year's resolution, Peter. The pronunciation of Mr. Williams on the defensive line for Nebraska, the transfer from Missouri. Dale is saying it's Waneri.
Waneri. Okay.
Waneri. Now, there's definitely a pronunciation guide out there that could probably tell me the answer to this question. But it would take me a minute to get there, and probably should have been something that I did, like before the show started or before, Nebraska got him out of the transfer portal. But yeah, here we are anyway. So, I don't know if you guys have noticed the whole Texas Tech thing, but I mean, so Quentin Joyner, he is in the running back from USC. Romello Height, 4-star transfer from Georgia Tech. Terrion Grant, the 4-star transfer from Purdue. There was like three players on Purdue that were like, all right, that were worth grabbing. That was one of them. Howard Sampson is a tackle transfer from North Carolina. He's at Texas Tech. Lee Hunter, a defensive line transfer from UCF. He ended up at Texas Tech. Anthony Holmes, defensive line, 3-star transfer from Houston, Texas Tech. Terrence Carter, 4-star transfer from Louisiana, ended up at Texas Tech. Mitch Griffiths, a quarterback transfer from Wake Forest, ended up at Texas Tech. Amir Boyd Matthews from UTEP. Skylar Gill Howard from Northern Illinois. Got a guy from Miami of Ohio. Got a guy from Mississippi State. Got a guy from Charlotte. Got a guy from North Dakota State, a safety from North Dakota State. Got an offensive lineman from Illinois State that is very, very highly regarded. I mean, it's nuts what they have done so far in the transfer portal. And all these guys are pretty highly sought after as well. Text from the 402. I imagine coaches going around putting beans on players' pictures like Michael Scott handing out raises. What does a bean mean? That's what all the players are asking once they figure out how much money they're getting paid. What does a bean mean? So yeah, I mean, I guess that's a way to do it. I don't know if that has to be the way to do it. Like, you have to map out what your position group, how much money your position group is making. You have to allocate a certain amount of money to the position group, and maybe it's the same all across the board, or maybe it's not. And then you sort of go from there. That could be a way to do it. You could kind of play it prospect by prospect. You can, I mean, there's like a lot of different ways to do it. By the way, let's see if I can go to pronunciation.
I was looking. I found the media guide for Missouri last year, but I was not seeing pronunciations in there.
All right. That's hell of a media guide you got there, Missouri.
Yeah.
Nice job by them. Usually they bring that to the table, but I guess it's harder for some. That's okay. All right. We'll come back. Brian Christopherson is going to join us on the other side. We have many things to talk about with him. We'll get caught up on what Matt Rule had to say today at his press conference. And yeah, we will finally, as I think Rule sort of set the tone for it today, we will finally begin the conversation about the Pinstripe Bowl just in time to leave for a week. But we will finally begin the conversation about the Pinstripe Bowl. BC joins when we return in the Connor Happer Show next on 1620 The Zone. But first, I'd like to remind you all to sign up for the VIP Club, 1620 The Email. You could give the gift of 1620 The Email. Sign up a friend for 1620 The Email. They'll appreciate it. Trust me, you'll want to do this. And we have all sorts of exciting stuff that's coming up for 2025. You can be the first to know about it. Sign up today, 1620thezone.com.
Hey, Brian.
Brian Christopherson,
I gotta take this. It's Hap.
B-Rony drove my Chevy to the levee, but the levee was dry.
Brian Christopherson, Husker 24/7 on the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone.
All righty, we're joined now on the 42 Degrees, the Source Hotline by our good friend Brian Christopherson of Husker 247 BC. Hello, happy Friday. How are you?
Doing well. You caught me at halftime of Matt Rule talked, and then players coming up. So this is great.
Oh, awesome. Okay, I didn't know it was continuing on after Rule was done. I just figured it was
over.
Oh,
there's more. There's more.
I haven't seen the video or heard the audio yet, but I enjoyed the quotes of Rule dancing around the landmine that was placed in front of him, talking about Penn State this weekend. That was pretty entertaining, it seemed.
Yeah, I think he knows emotions are running high after last night, and he moved past that one definitely. But yeah, there was some of that. We got into talking about salary cap stuff basically now in college football press conferences, all that stuff. I thought I'd be writing and talking about when I was at the Daily Nebraskan in 2003.
It's funny because you can't really have conversations that don't it's like this whatever degrees of separation. You can have as many college football conversations as you want, but ultimately all roads are going to lead back to NIL and transfer portal and what's wrong. And I don't know, just get ready for off season's when it really ramps up. In the absence of football, this is what we talk about. So get ready.
Yeah. I mean, it's as much about business reporting now as probably the on-field stuff. And some of us have to adjust. I know people in the media who are in the NFL and major leagues. This is nothing new to them, but it is now part of our world. And so old dogs like me better figure it out because it's real and part of the conversation. And it's all December basically now. I mean, we barely discussed the football game itself. Yeah. There was a few questions about that, but a lot of it's just like how the portal process is playing out, like how even the stuff that is football related is basically, do you want to play? Do you view a bowl game differently now as far as like, even younger guys getting in more than you would have in the past and stuff like that. So it's different.
Yeah. And so one of the common talking points around bowl season is, like you said, BC, who's going to play. And I didn't think that Nebraska was going to get hit too hard by opt-outs. If anything, it was the transfer portal and has been. But we did learn about a few. We expected Tommy Hill to not play in the Pinstripe Bowl anyway after they shut him down a few weeks ago. But Micah Mazuka and Isaiah Nair not going to play in the bowl game as well. All things considered, it doesn't seem like Nebraska was, and it doesn't seem like Boston College for that matter either has been hit real hard by the guys who just don't want to play in the bowl game thing.
No, people can be snarky about it if they want, but Nebraska and Boston College, actually the Pinstripe Bowl is one of the better bowl games probably because I do think both teams are going to be invested in it. I think there's a general, part of it's because both head coaches are still, I know we're going on year 3 of Rule, but it's only just finished the second season and Bill O'Brien finished his first. And so I think when you're more early on in a coach's era, there does sometimes seem to be more buy-in with the bowl game attached with the players and all that stuff. You're not getting all that hot seat talk or any of that stuff. So I think that's part of it. And also Nebraska's a unique situation, of course, with their 8-year bowl drought and guys like Ty Robinson and Giff and those dudes want to finish what they started. And it makes sense that Rule answered it the way he did. Like, if guys want to play, we're going to win the game. So it's not a deal where, you're just going to play some younger guy just to get him experience just for the sake of it. There might be some cases where you see some of that, and the portal has probably forced Nebraska's hand, like on the D line with some other guys having to play more reps than they would have in the regular season. But for the most part, a lot of Nebraska's roster that we've seen throughout the whole season will be the guys you see out there, probably just with, maybe Caleb Benning is mixed in here, or you see Amari Sanders there, and some stuff like that. But I don't think it's going to be as noticeable as some other games.
Yeah, so they're trying to handle obviously getting ready for a bowl game and having that transition, and then what the harder transition will be is going into next season. There's a lot of players that Nebraska has to, so they have to balance it. Like, how do they want to play the bowl game? For that reason, obviously, you can't play incoming transfers in the bowl game, and those are going to be a big part of what Nebraska does next year. But I guess I've been wondering this week, BC, like how they view the younger guys on their roster. Like if Nebraska doesn't get a Texas Tech type of load in the transfer portal where they're bringing in several starters, which I guess I wouldn't really expect them to at this point. It must be sort of a belief in what you're doing with like freshman and sophomore classes, guys who have sort of stuck around, and maybe next week is an opportunity for those guys to show up a little bit.
That's why this game's pretty interesting. You want to see, what does Cam Linhart bring to the table? What does Riley Van Poppel? Some guys like that. Maybe I mentioned a couple of the guys in the secondary. Maybe you see a couple of guys there. Vincent Shavers should play a lot in this game. Willis McGahee, his reps count will go up, I'm guessing. So, yeah, you want to see what do those guys do with Nair out? Maybe that adds some reps to a younger wide receiver. Maybe we see, I don't know, Jalen Lloyd. You'd love to see pop up a little bit more than he has in some games. So this is one of those games where even though it's not a high profile bowl matchup or anything like that, it's pretty important for Nebraska when the athletic director is saying, this is the start of 2025. He said that in his interview, and Matt Rule will basically say the same thing in a way. So there is that mixture of, you want to send like Ty Robinson and Nash Hutmaker outright, but yeah, there's definitely a preview toward let's build momentum with some young guys, have them perform well in this game when they get their opportunities, and hopefully it encourages people about what's happening in 2025. But one other thing, I mean, the people need to know, I mean, the portal visits sort of end on Sunday for December, but then it opens up again, January 1st. So their rule is very clear. They're being methodical about their approach there. And so there's still some big things that are going to happen with that for Nebraska and additions, but if it doesn't all happen this weekend, there's still time for it for there to be some headlines.
I'm thinking of continuing to think of angles for the bowl game, and I know Dylan was asked about this yesterday, and Dana Holgerson was as well. But the idea that you now, when you go into this game next weekend and you have 15 more practices under your belt under a brand new offensive coordinator, and I know that they've been, there's been guys in and out, and they haven't hit it particularly hard up and probably until this point, getting ready for the game. I think there should be an excitement from people to see, all right, it's another several weeks under Dana Holgerson with Dylan Raiola. What's that going to be specifically with those two? Maybe not from like a wide receiver. What are you going to have at a skill position standpoint? Because that'll be different next year. But specifically with Raiola and Holgerson, like I'm kind of fired up to continue to watch his progression there.
Yeah, and I mean, with Dana Holgerson, the first 3 games, he's calling plays in a different language, basically. I mean, he's just basically speaking Italian, trying to figure it out on the fly. That's why they even had to call a couple timeouts in games, because he couldn't quite spit it out right because he was still learning that. So some of that stuff should be cleared up. So maybe it's even a little bit crisper there. He's gotten to know some personnel really well. It's good to hear too, like veteran like Thomas Fedoni, who didn't have as many snaps in a couple games, and people are wondering about that. He's had good practices, and does Emmett Johnson just keep going the way he has now the last 3 games in this offense under Holgerson's direction? So there are really interesting storylines attached to the offense, and there should be optimism, and I think there is, that they can play pretty sound football, because it's going to be, Nair's not playing, and I know Mazuka's out, but Gunnar Gatula played, more snaps actually at tackle anyway. And in a way, you actually want to see Gatula, I think, in this game, right? Because he's going to be here next year. So that's probably a good thing. And so, yeah, I think there should be some hope that the offense is pretty efficient and looks pretty dialed in, because obviously Dowdell's gone, but Ramirez, it's his final verse here, so there's that part. And Quentin Ives is an interesting name that popped up this week as far as having some good bowl practices. So does he get some reps? So stuff like that actually makes this a pretty interesting game.
28. I don't know who that is, but 28. Yeah, that's the guy.
Yeah, I had to double check, make sure we were talking Ives or Mackay Nelson. Which one is it? So hopefully you got the number right, because we all wrote that Ives is on the march. It'd be a shame if it's actually someone else.
Hey, you mentioned Dowdell. What I know Rule had, he commented on his situation a little bit today. What'd you take away from what Rule said and why Dante Dowdell isn't here anymore?
I mean, guys are getting offered before they're in the portal, and it's hard to say no to stuff. And I don't think a lot of people are mad at the players or Rule is. It's an understanding, like, there's big dollars being thrown in front of guys. And not that that's only it, but that was attached to his answer about Dante, about, Dante loved it here. And then he spoke generally about the fact that guys are seeing those offers flashed in front of them by somebody before they even enter the portal. And I think we all knew that. Nobody's naive about that. So,
yeah.
I mean,
that almost hits my ears, one ear out the other at this point.
Yeah, but it's tough, because you can have a player that is really doing well in your operation and actually likes your operation and has benefited from it. But I mean, we've all had job offers put in front of us over the years, and sometimes you get a little more here and you have to think about it, and so this is a business, and that's what's happening. And so that was a case that's part of the business of college football now, is the way what I took from it.
All right, BC. Well, we'll let you go. Let you get back to it. Appreciate you always taking the time for us on Friday. Have a safe trip out to New York. Happy holidays, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yep. Always appreciate being on, and happy holidays to all the listeners.
That's Brian Christopherson of Husker 247 staple of Friday guest. One thing that we'll talk about with Sipple, we'll sort of expand that conversation in the noon hour with Sipple, just on, the idea that there are people in the transfer portal. They're not in the transfer portal yet, and they're getting approached by other schools or representatives, and they're saying, "Hey, look, if you do go into the transfer portal, you can get X amount of dollars." Or in some cases, like, specific schools will come up and they'll say, "Hey, go into the transfer portal, transfer here, and we will give you this much," or whatever it might be. Like I said, not uncommon, not even. It doesn't even shock you when you hear it anymore. Like, it's almost to the point where the complaints from college football coaches fall on deaf ears. So the next question is, how do you adjust? What's the next move? Is Nebraska one of those schools? Is Nebraska aggressive in the transfer portal as far as that is concerned? Or if they're getting tampered with and they're losing players that they want to keep, should they be tampering? Right? I mean, like, these are the things that we're talking about now. And I know it seems insane. It's like, there's always been a sports talk radio host throughout the history of time who's come on the radio and has said, you know what I think that they should do? I think they should cheat, just like everybody else. They have to just start cheating, like Alabama or like whatever. Everybody always, we used to say that all the time. I was like, oh, ha ha ha, that's funny. They're not going to cheat. They should probably. If they're not cheating, they should begin to cheat now. Like, because it's not even really cheating. Like, I heard John and Josh make the analogy yesterday to, a whole bunch of cars driving down the interstate and the speed limit's 75 and everybody's going 90. If everybody's going 90, who's really speeding? Nobody. Nobody's speeding, right? So, that's something that I want to talk about with Sipple. when he joins the show in less than an hour. So we'll put a pin in that for the moment. As always, want to hear from you guys. 402-951-1620. We still have plenty to cover on the show, including our history lesson coming up here in about 15 minutes. But first, the Peter Man has the odd news coming up on 1620 The Zone.
And now we've reached the point in the show where Josh Odson reads the peculiar, the bizarre, the comical, the odd news with Odd Son. Odd news, Odd Son. See what we did there? The odd news with Oddson.
All right, so I wanted to give a shout out to Peter Man, and I thought this would be a good place to do it. Because you were the one that tipped off Josh Odson, who tipped me off on an upcoming film that I am interested in seeing.
I love that this is getting brought up because this was definitely going to be in my odd news.
Okay,
today.
perfect.
So it works perfectly.
Let's just talk about it. So, where did you find out about this this upcoming Mark Wahlberg film?
So I was at the theater yesterday, and they have like tons of posters lining the hallway, and they get changed out pretty often. And I saw this one was just staring me in the face as soon as I walked out of the theater I was in. Flight Risk, new Mark Wahlberg movie.
So it was a movie poster that was being advertised like it's on the wall.
Yep, it's on the wall. I have not seen a trailer or any other sort of.
Oh, I've seen a trailer.
And before
the trailer is intriguing. So it's called Flight Risk. The poster has Mark Wahlberg and his face is cut to shreds. And then and the tagline is "Y'all need a pilot."
That's what caught my eye.
So an obviously something that we had to look into. And I did. I watched a 2.5 minute trailer yesterday. And so the premise is, I'll read it to you off as it is off of Wikipedia.
Yeah, that's what I have pulled up too, because it's kind of crazy.
A U.S. Marshal escorts a government witness to trial after he is accused of getting involved with a mob boss, only to discover that the pilot who is transporting them is a hitman that has been sent to assassinate the informant. After they subdue him, they're forced to fly together after discovering that there are others attempting to eliminate them. So there is a large portion of the movie that happens as Mark Wahlberg, the assassin pilot, is tied up, and that is when they hit some turbulence or whatever, and that is when he says, "Y'all need a pilot." Mark Wahlberg, it should be mentioned, has aggressive male pattern baldness in this movie. And it involves flying a plane. Topher Grace is there. And I got to say, it's directed by Mel Gibson.
Yeah, and I didn't even notice that because I was so caught by the "y'all need a pilot" tagline.
I am not sure. Like, this is a movie that was made for me to get back to the movies, I think. The only thing it's not, because basically what this is Con Air chopped and screwed. You know, it's like it's Con Air but different. Mark Wahlberg is the pilot, but you kind of like they're teasing it like there's something wrong with this guy. He's got a problem. And then it turns out he is an assassin who's been sent to murder Topher Grace on the plane. And
with intense male pattern
yeah.
That was the gem. That was when you and Josh stumbled upon that like 10-second promo clip where he's screaming
yeah.
with his insane hair.
I gotta tell you, like I 2.5 minute trailer, like I don't know if I get a minute in January, because it comes out end of January.
And that's the big sell right here. This was supposed to come out mid-October, and then it got moved to January, which is notoriously the month where just insane movies come out that studios don't really know what else to do with.
Let me tell you another thing. 91-minute runtime.
Oh,
it's perfect.
It's perfect.
So I have a thought.
The sweet spot.
I have a thought. A couple of years ago, we all went to the movies and invited our friends, and we went and saw that stupid Cocaine Bear movie. This kind of feels like it's in that category. It's bad. It's dumb. It features Mark Wahlberg. It's only 90 minutes. It's directed by Mel Gibson. It involves a plane. I'm very excited about it. It's definitely a Josh Odson movie. Josh, you, Peter, and I can lead the charge for this to potentially be the next 1620, the movie gathering.
I am all in.
Yeah,
all in,
because it just feels right. So
this is exciting.
Yeah. We're lead the charge. We might forget about this because it's Friday right before we go on a sizable break, but we'll try to remember. Josh will keep us informed for sure. What's up? What else is up?
All right, moving on to a less fun topic, but interesting to say the least. A murder investigation in Spain.
By the way, I've received a text from a local dignitary who says, I am in.
All right.
A local dignitary.
All right. Sweet. Yeah,
Thank you for listening, local dignitaries of all shapes and sizes.
Get excited for flight.
Okay, sorry. Keep going again.
Oh, so yeah. So I guess this murder happened in November of last year is when the person went missing.
Okay.
And some preliminary suspects were talked to, but the most recent development, this was published Wednesday, a couple days ago, they discovered on Google Maps, it's like the street view, where they take the pictures and the weird car thing.
Yeah, I'm on a Google map.
Yeah,
I saw the Google car once.
They got a tip that there was a weird image in the area where this investigation's origin was, and they found one of the people stuffing a suspicious object into a vehicle.
Talk about bad luck.
So they were, and this is ongoing. It's still in the world. They're still looking into stuff, but they said it was a very telling piece of evidence, and it is going to further a lot of the investigation.
If you have any sort of conscience, think about how like much thought would have to go behind, like finally getting up the courage to murder somebody, right? And then you do it. And
then you're like a year later and you're like, I think I did. I think I got away with it.
You're trying to stuff the body bag in a car and the Google car catches you.
Imagine,
that sounds like honestly a plot. Like it sounds like an episode of Arrested Development.
It really, like you lock eyes with the person driving the car like, oh no.
Damn it.
This is not good news.
Yeah. Man. It's tough. But got eyes everywhere. You can't get away with anything these days. That's a good lesson. Don't murder kids.
It's not the 1970s.
No, it is not.
You cannot.
There might be a Google car.
There's always a Google car watching.
I'm on the Google Maps. We've talked about this before on this show. If you go to Mount or Chautauqua Park in Boulder, Colorado, I saw the Google car there one day, and I was crossing the street, and they like blurred out my face.
He did not consent to be in this, so we have to blur.
No, I didn't. So I was there, and I kind of waved, and you could see me kind of waving, but my face is blurred out. It's really funny. I have the picture somewhere. All right, anything else?
And then we'll end on this. And to whoever is not wanting to hear anything else about Miss Welch Hawktua, I apologize.
Oh no!
But we do have another development.
So she's in big trouble, isn't she?
Yeah. This is this where we jump to the shark? Is this where the wheels fall off of her time in the sun? Because this week she launched, I'll admit I am not well versed on the crypto. I do not know much about that
me neither.
Side of the world.
Just burn through it.
But she launched some sort of Hawktua crypto project, got a lot of people in on this, and then allegedly rug pulled investors, and the token tanked 95%, nearly 100%.
That'd be a federal crime.
So that's bad,
I think.
And now there's a lawsuit, and investors are saying this arises from an unlawful promotion and sale of the Hawktua cryptocurrency meme coin. And if you have to release an official statement saying that, what the hell were you thinking in the first place? Because that is the most insane sentence I think I've ever read.
Yeah.
And also, I can't believe this is a real thing. Named in the lawsuit are the To the Moon Foundation.
Oh, no.
What? That's a real thing.
I'm reading here from Mashable. Welch's fans who had invested started to blame those directly involved in the project. Investigations into the meme coin found that vast majority of the tokens were held by just a few wallets, with those that had invested claiming that insiders received pre-launch access to the cryptocurrency before it went on sale to the public. After it launched, some said those insiders dumped #Hawk for a profit, leaving Welch's fans holding the bag. Welch and Over Here, the crypto team she partnered with, held a public spaces stream on X. These are absurd sentences. During the live audio chat, Welch and her partners were heavily criticized by listeners, including the popular YouTube crypto scam investigator CoffeeZilla. Now, she has not released an episode in 2 weeks of Talk Tua. She has gone MIA. She is off the face of the earth. She's probably been instructed by her lawyers to never say anything again. That might not help her in this case, but yeah,
Talk Tua is on temporary hold.
yeah, this came to a predictable end. I always thought it would end this way.
Is this the straw that breaks the Talk Tua back?
I think it's officially over. It's a good lesson. If you get your 15 minutes of fame, just whatever the step is before you get to launching a cryptocurrency, stop
there.
Yeah, it should stop at a podcast. No more than that. Do the podcast.
The podcast is a good stopping point.
Sell merch, and that's it.
And I'll give it to her. She milked it. For all it's worth.
She took it a step too far, though.
Yeah, the crypto is never fun.
All right, thank you, Peter, man. That is the odd news. The noon hour is coming up. Once again, Sipple will join us at the bottom of the hour. Coming back, we'll take a look at Nebraska versus untraditional stadiums, a history lesson. Coming up on 1620 The Zone. right, welcome back. It's the noon hour of the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone and on 1620thezone.com. I'm Connor Happer. Peter Krenzer with you as well. Tonight, it's the college football playoff. That's right, tonight, live from South Bend, Indiana, which is the home to many snowflakes right now. Not just human snowflakes, but also real-life snowflakes. It has been snowing in the area for the last several hours now, and I did see some videos coming out from very, very early this morning of folks attempting to get into the parking lots and tailgate at around 7 a.m. In advance of the 7. Well, is that Eastern time? I think it's probably right on the borderline there.
It should be Eastern.
Yeah, 8 o'clock Eastern time tonight, which is I mean, it's awesome. I love the fact that these games are at the sites now, and even if it's just the 4 games right here, this is it's going to be pretty awesome tonight for the college football playoff. We will talk about that as we make our picks coming up in the 1 o'clock hour. Don't forget Steve Sipple will join us coming up in just a few minutes. But normally here, as we're preparing for a Nebraska game, and I know this is a little odd because now Nebraska doesn't play tomorrow. They play a week from tomorrow in the Pinstripe Bowl, but we won't have a show between now and then. So you know how the Friday football shows go. We have our keys and peas. In the 1 o'clock hour, we will still make the picks. We'll make them for the college football playoff games plus Nebraska. And we usually have a little bit of a history lesson between Nebraska and their opponent on Friday at noon. We'll do that, even though we're 8 days out instead of 1 day out. But we hit another snag in the road. Nebraska and Boston College never played each other before, which I don't know about you, Peter. Like, I find that to be surprising.
I find it weird when any power, well, I guess 4 now, power 4 teams have not played each other in the year 2024.
Nebraska. So let me see if there's anyone left in the P5 who they haven't played.
Yeah, I'm curious.
So ACC, current ACC teams, you're gonna have to help. You're gonna have to cross-check this with me. So could you find a list of the ACC teams for me? And I think, or just tell me how many of them there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I think there's, I want to say 15.
Well, Nebraska's played 14 as of this moment. They'll play their 15th on December 28th in the Bronx. So if there are 15, then Nebraska will complete the ACC next week. This is exciting.
Oh, I was off. 17.
Oh God! So they're missing.
So they are missing some people. So no BC.
They have not played Boston College. I'm sure there's a list out there somewhere.
I'll do some recon.
Listen, okay. So I'm gonna start naming them. I'm gonna start naming the teams that they have played. And if you can keep track, let me know which ones I haven't said. Wake Forest, NC State, North Carolina, Cal, SMU, Miami, Clemson, Syracuse, Virginia Tech, Pitt, Florida State, Stanford, Georgia Tech, Duke, and now BC. So there should be 2 left that they haven't played. I do not have it in my powers to figure out who those 2 are off the top of my head.
I'm on it right now. We'll get to the bottom of this.
All right, cool. In the Big 12, I don't know how many teams are in that conference either. They've played they played all the old teams. They played. I would assume they played everybody in the Big 12. West Virginia, Utah, UCF, Cincinnati, Baylor, Oklahoma State, TCU, K-State, Iowa State, Kansas is 10. Arizona State, Colorado, Texas Tech, Arizona, Houston, and BYU is 16. Is there 16 teams in the Big 12?
That I do know. There is
Okay.
16. And I found one of the ACC teams they have not played. It is Louisville.
Never played Louisville. Okay.
So that's
Let me know when you find the other one. They've played every Big 10 team because they played all the new 4. How many teams are there in the SEC as of this moment?
There are 16.
Okay. So Nebraska's played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. They're missing 2 SEC teams as well as of this moment. Wow. So this is an important this feels like a job that is made for Dave Feit if he's listening to the show, or maybe he's not today. It does feel like a job that's made for him. We might get to the bottom of this or we might not. So Nebraska has no history with Boston College. So I figured we'd do this. Nebraska's history with unorthodox stadiums. They're going to play in an unorthodox stadium. Now, this is not just neutral site games. I didn't include games at Arrowhead Stadium. I didn't include games at, like Jerry World. I didn't include game at the Cotton Bowl, the Gator Bowl, the Music City Bowl. Like I didn't include any of those because the list would have gotten a little bit too long. So these are stadiums that I would call unorthodox. And one of them is maybe not so unorthodox, but it fits in the category of what Nebraska is about to see next Saturday. So their most recent game in an unorthodox stadium. We remember it well. 2022, the beginning of the season, Nebraska heads to Dublin, Ireland. They're bubbling in Dublin against Northwestern at Aviva Stadium, where they lost the football game, of course, and people forget that they onside kicked, and that was that. So that's certainly an oddity of a stadium. Before that, it was 2014. I will count this as an unorthodox stadium, mostly because it's, like I said, it fits in the same category of this stadium hosted a Major League Baseball team for a period of time. Qualcomm Stadium in San Diego, California. Nebraska played 3 games there from 2009 to 2014, all in the Holiday Bowl. USC in 2014, where they lost 45-42. Washington in the Holiday Bowl in 2010, where they lost 19-7, and Arizona in 2009, where they beat Arizona 33-0. And Nebraska was back, and they were here to stay. I will call games at that stadium unorthodox. Former home of the San Diego Padres. Currently, they might have blown it up. They might have blown up.
I do not believe it's around anymore.
I think they blew it up.
I think shortly after they left town,
the Chargers played there, and then they left. But then they played like San Diego State games there for a while, and then they got a new stadium, and they were trying to do some other stuff with it. It might be gone, but unorthodox stadium. And then there's 3 other stadiums that I would include in this lineage, in this history. Of course, 1992, Nebraska played K-State in the Coca-Cola Classic at the Tokyo Dome in Tokyo, Japan. They beat K-State 38-24. And really, they clinched a share of the big 8 that day. 1976, we go back to the Blue Bonnet Bowl at the Astrodome in Houston. Nebraska beat Texas Tech 27-24 that day. And then you go back to 1962, and you go back to Yankee Stadium, where they played Miami in the Gotham Bowl. This was Yankee Stadium. I believe they refer to this as Yankee Stadium 2. There was Yankee Stadium 1, which lived until, it's been basically on the same place throughout the entire time, but it lived until the 20s. And then there was the one which was torn down about 15 years ago, Yankee Stadium 2. That's the game. That's where Nebraska played in the Gotham Bowl in 1962 and beat Miami 36-34. And now they return back to Yankee Stadium 3 coming up next weekend. Did you know? And I would watch for a story on this from Mitch Sherman of The Athletic coming up soon. But collectors of memorabilia, collectors of items, relating to Nebraska football history. So apparently, and I didn't know this, apparently programs or really anything that sort of has to do with the 1962 Gotham Bowl are some of the most sought after collector items in like Nebraska football lore. There is a lot of people who collect a lot of Nebraska football stuff, football related stuff. We're talking about game programs. We're talking about ticket stubs. We're talking about just little things that you would have picked up literally at the football game. And the older it gets, obviously, the more valuable it's worth. But apparently, there is not many. There are not many game programs floating out there from the 1962 Gotham Bowl. So this has become one of the most
hot item.
Please tell me if you're one of these collectors. Please tell me.
Yeah, if you have pictures, that'd be cool.
If you either have it or if you could confirm that that's right, because I'd never really heard about this until this week. But it seems that this is like the item for Nebraska collectors to like sort of complete their collection. And so it's fascinating. And now, of course, it comes up because they returned to Yankee Stadium. So we get a text from the 402. And I only went back, although I guess this wouldn't really have anything to do with this. I only went back to about that portion of time because it got difficult to track, I think, in the 50s and in the 40s and the 30s and the 20s of like where they played. Obviously, they played a game at the Polo Grounds in the 20s. We talked about that game against Rutgers earlier this year. So I would just assume that there were more baseball stadiums and more unorthodox stadiums during that time, but I only tracked it back to the 60s. And this is a good question. Did Nebraska ever play Minnesota at the Metrodome? Did they ever go up there and play Minnesota at the Metrodome when the Gophers played there? I don't know the answer to that question. Oh well, there was the infamous. They must have, right? But it wasn't. I know why I didn't include it on this list, because it wasn't denoted that they played in like an unorthodox stadium. They played at Minnesota in 1983, and they infamously won 84-13. They absolutely smacked them, and it was. And then they played each other in '89 and won 48-0 as well. I one or both of those games were in the Metrodome, so that counts as well. Thank you to the texter for sending that in. Text from the 757 Qualcomm, someone the San Diego Chargers as well. Yes, correct. I know, but I needed some things to put on this list. By the way, couple. Oh, but wow, we've heard from Kenneth. Did I miss the slate? Yeah, we grunted it yesterday, for the record. Also,
I did that once and it didn't go so great, so I don't know if I'll grunt again.
You did?
I'm glad Joey took care of it.
What? You had a problem? Well, I don't remember this.
I just like, it was just so obvious that Josh was better at it than I was. It was just immediately.
You know what? Now I do.
It was immediately apparent that I was in over my head with.
So I grunted it yesterday,
and I was listening to you guys do it, and I'm like, I'm glad I'm not doing it, because it would be way worse.
I don't know if it went well.
I think you did a good job.
Thank you. I appreciate.
Also, I did.
Did
I just did a lot of referencing on Winsipedia, great website.
Yes, agreed.
And I have figured out, and I'm going to do this based off as of right now, because obviously things are going to shift again with the Pac-2 and new teams are moving in. As of right now, how things are currently formatted in the Big Ten, obviously Nebraska's played all those teams.
Correct.
They have played both of the Pac-2, and they've played all of the Big 12 currently. The two conferences,
all of the Big 12.
They have played all current members of the Big 12.
Okay.
At least once. The only two conferences where they have not played everyone, the ACC and the SEC. And the ACC, they have not played three teams: Boston College, Louisville, and Virginia.
Virginia.
No matchups with Virginia.
Wow. Okay.
And then in the SEC, out of the 16 in there, they have played 14, but they have not ever played Kentucky or Vanderbilt.
Wow. I should have guessed that.
Yeah, I
should have guessed that.
I thought maybe Vanderbilt would be on there because I just couldn't think of any possible matchups they would have had, but then I did not know Kentucky would be on there.
So as of this moment, the only Power 4 teams they have not played are Boston College, Louisville, Virginia, Kentucky, and Vanderbilt.
Correct. And one of those will get crossed off the list.
One of those will get crossed off the list next Saturday. So we'll be down to Louisville, Virginia, Kentucky, and Vanderbilt. Wow.
Let's schedule some non-con.
Wow. That's awesome. That's a great that's a great stat.
Honestly, way less than I was expecting with all the realignment. I thought there'd be a few more that maybe they hadn't played before, but there was a lot of one game series histories in there.
Oh yeah, there was a lot. I mean, most of those, big opponents are like bowl games and stuff like that. There's a whole bunch of them that Nebraska's only played one time, and then there's a few of them that they've done like home and homes with over the years. They've still never beaten USC. I remember talking about that during the season. But obviously it gets a lot more sketchy once you get into the group of 5 ranks, but Power 5, you would have figured with a program that's been around as long as Nebraska has, they would have ran into just about everybody by now, and that is the case. Just about everybody. They played Stanford, Georgia Tech, Duke, and now Boston College on next Saturday, one time, and North Carolina, one time. Other one-time opponents, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, and Arkansas are one-time opponents for Nebraska. West Virginia is a one-time opponent for Nebraska. These are power conference teams. Houston and BYU are one-time opponents. UCF is a one-time opponent. Cincinnati is a one-time opponent for them. So Boston College will join a less elite company when they play Nebraska for the first time next week. Dave writes in, did we not beat USC in the Holiday Bowl? Nope, we did not. We did not. Tommy Armstrong threw for a lot of yards, and Bo Pelini got fired the several weeks before that, but no, Nebraska did not. They did not beat USC in that Holiday Bowl. I don't know why. I'm not sure why you remember it that way, but they most certainly did not.
Perhaps you're mistaking it with the throttling of Arizona in the Holiday Bowl, but that was separate.
Yep. And then they said Nebraska's back and we're here to stay. Nebraska's back and we're here to stay. Question from the text line was, when did Nebraska play SMU?
I will
find that.
Had that pulled up.
Winsipedia. People were wondering when they played SMU,
and that was the
one game that Nebraska played SMU. Oh, looks like there's been two.
A tie was it?
1929, a 0-0 tie in Lincoln, and 1932, a 21-14 Nebraska win. So Nebraska is 1-0-1 against SMU all the time. There you go. 1931 was the answer to your question. When did Nebraska last? 1932, rather. When did Nebraska last play? In Dallas. All right. So we'll have the playoff stuff coming up a little bit later on in the show. We'll get to those games and we'll even pick them. But there's your history lesson for the week. Cannot wait for the playoff games. Very excited. Cannot wait for our last chat of 2024 with our dear friend Stephen M. Sipple. We'll do that when we return in the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone.
Steve Sipple,
The conversation gets even more uncomfortable, okay?
Omaha!
Steve Sipple on the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone.
All right, it's time for our final chat of the year with Steve Sipple of HuskerOnline.com. Joins us now on the 42 Degrees of Source hotline. Hi, Sipple.
Hey, talk really loud
Why?
because my hearing's impaired from a cold kind of residual, and I'm walking too. So
Wait, you lost your hearing from having a cold?
I didn't lose it. It's just compromised a little bit.
Oh, so you got like a head cold? Like you got your ears haven't popped out yet?
Right.
Gotcha.
You got it.
All right, I'll make sure I talk it. Is this volume good?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, that's good. How's it going? How are you today?
Good. I just was at the Nebraska football press conference.
Yeah.
I'm leaving there, and it was fine.
What'd you learn from Matt Rule today?
There wasn't any what I would describe as breaking news.
No, probably not.
Talked about, like, I thought the most interesting thing was what he said about Dowdell.
Yeah.
And that departure. And it wasn't like a sudden surprise to him. That I always find it interesting when these coaches just talk so openly about the broken system.
I know. It almost goes in one ear and out the other now, Sipple, when you hear a coach and you're like, well, he got offered more money and he wasn't even in the transfer portal yet. What am I supposed to do?
Right. I'm glad they're doing it. I'm really, every time I hear a coach talk about the ridiculous system, I'm heartened. I mean, I'm glad they're doing it. It needs to be all out there, you know. But because here's what, well, and not only just because of it's informative about the system. It's also informative about Dowdell and what the situation was, where it's not necessarily anything that was wrong here. See, what I do,
right.
I don't know,
yeah.
I think other people do it too, where I just assumed, oh, he left because Emmett Johnson was the number one, you know, or they probably assured Emmett Johnson he's number one and Dowdell didn't like that. Well, that might have been part of it, but it probably wasn't that. I mean, one of the things I don't like about college football now is we do make these assumptions that we just I don't know, we just go on with life and figure, yeah, Dowdell wasn't happy at Nebraska. Not true. You know, I mean, he got an offer from somebody. Probably quite a, well, if you listen to what Rule said, this is not a stretch. It was quite a bit more money. So I don't know. It's just kind of a weird time.
So when you hear that, Sipple, and you hear that all these other teams are like that happened to Dante Dowdell, and I'm sure he's not the first or the last guy that it happened to on Nebraska's roster that we probably don't even know about. It's like when you hear that, and then you compare it to how like Nebraska is approaching things out of the transfer portal. Sort of what do you think of it? It feels like maybe they're not necessarily as aggressive. But you know, I'm not saying it's wrong.
There's aggressive.
They are? Interesting.
Yeah, they're in the muck with everybody else. I mean, I don't think Nebraska's taken a strange high road here. I mean,
that's a good thing. That's a good thing, by the way.
What's that?
That's a good thing, by the way.
Yeah, I wouldn't. If I were a Nebraska fan, I wouldn't want Nebraska to get too haughty about any of this.
Right.
You know, don't tamper. I mean, come on. I mean,
everybody's tampering.
Right. don't. Yeah, I wouldn't want them to claim some moral high ground. I mean, I hate to say it, but
I totally agree.
yeah, you just have to do it to stay alive. And they might be. I think they have more scruples in a lot of ways than some others. That's always been the case, no matter the system in place. No matter the business, some people just have more scruples than others, and I think Nebraska does. But do I think Nebraska tampers? Yeah, I do. Of course they do.
How do you think? And I know Sean mentioned this at some point this week as well, and I've been talking about it a lot as well. The fact that Nebraska, has a pretty wide net cast out in the transfer portal right now in terms of the guys that they sort of need to bring in.
Yeah.
How does that affect them when they try to compete in the NIL space? Where, like, I guess I'll just ask it that way. How does that affect them in trying to compete in the transfer portal NIL space?
How does what? No, I don't understand the question.
Having
Connor.
so many holes to fill, having
Mhm.
so many players that they need to bring in, doesn't that make it a little more difficult to really have competitive offers for individual guys?
No. Here's why. I think that, and Rule did talk about this today, and I've heard Sean Callahan. No, I don't think that's an issue because it's just like in the NFL where you prioritize. There's certain players they do prioritize.
Right.
There's some immediacy with those players, and they're prioritized financially. And then there's guys that aren't quite as prioritized that you look at as more developmental. I would think Jalen George might fall into that sort of category. Certainly, the Mississippi State lineman, where you might have to literally not have to pay anything to get that Mississippi State defensive lineman. Just put him on scholarship and give him a roster spot. So they're slotted. Players are slotted different ways. And I hope that answers your question.
It absolutely does. And so when you look at, Isaiah Hunter, who they got from Cal, that's one of their top targets, and that's everybody else that's recruiting him. It's one of their top targets as well, and it shows that Nebraska could be competitive in that area.
100. It's a really good example of that because he commanded a big number. I mean, I don't mind speculating because it's informed speculation. There's no way he's here for less than $500,000. There's just no way. He's a priority player. He put up numbers, 40 catches, 578 yards, 5 touchdowns. He looks great on film. He's going to be a starter. I mean, that's $500,000. I would say that might be a light prediction. And again, I don't go on the radio and throw stuff out that I don't hear and don't, part of a lot of conversations. I'd say 500,000 light. I think Dane Key in that same realm. I mean, I'd say very close to the sort of slot that Isaiah Hunter is in. Slotted to probably the same importance, the same type of number. What I hear a lot, it's interesting. The lingo you hear is, okay, I will say to someone involved, do you think you can get that kid? And the lingo that you pick up on is, well, the number's right. The number's right. So they won't say, yeah, it's a done deal, but they'll say, well, the number's right. And that's a lot of the battle.
How many more starter caliber players do you think Nebraska needs to get out of the transfer portal in the cycle?
They need to get a tackle, for sure. I'd say they're working hard on that. It could be a right tackle or a left tackle or both. So that's a priority. I'd say, that I'd watch really closely what happens with Impemba. He's an edge rusher from Georgia who was a top 50 player in the country, top 50 player overall, that coming out of high school. And this is a dude. I mean, if you would add Impemba and you've already added the kid from Missouri, you've hit a home run. You've hit a major league home run. Because if those two kids are coming off the edge next year, I think I really believe you'd be in good shape.
No doubt. That would make if you added a couple more guys like that, who are immediately slotted to sort of be starters, I think that'd make people feel a lot better. Because simple, like I've had some trepidation like about the kind of guys that they've lost, and they've lost starter caliber players. Like they needed to have attrition, but they've also lost guys who were in the plans and guys that they didn't want to lose. So in order to make people feel better about that, you have to go out and get starter caliber players, and maybe
100.
that just takes some time.
Yeah, and a lot of that, let's face it, a lot of that is just up front on defense. That's really where the conversation is. When you lose Butler and James Williams, who else? I mean, getting Davis back, Keona, was gigantic. I think Bayer's a loss. So yeah, those guys, losing Butler that's really significant when you lose a big who's a starter, who commanded a number. You know, he's probably a $500,000 player. So that's stuff's they have to go out and get some guys. And I counsel people too. It doesn't all end on December 28th.
Yeah.
There's another round. There's another round in January. And I know they're working on players right now for January, and you know, I think they'll probably get some.
Yeah, that's the next thing I sort of wanted to ask you. Like, there's going to be another group. There will be players who leave rosters after they get eliminated from the college football playoff. Like, I don't know. Does Nebraska's approach so far sort of point to you that they feel okay about where they're at, even though they haven't seen a whole lot of movement on the guys entering from the transfer portal at this point?
Oh, now here's the thing.
Or do they not know?
No, I don't know how they feel exactly. I know that if I were them, I'd feel pretty good about what they have in place right now, and then what they kind of have on the hook. I mean, I know the 5 guys they had before Isaiah Hunter, that was good. They did a good job. Long snapper, boom. 3-year starting punter at Washington, boom.
Yeah.
Williams Noweri, top-rated edge rusher in his class. And when you turn on the film, it is oh damn. Okay, that's what that looks like. Interesting. And who else? Oh, Jalen George. I like him. I like him on film. I know he's East Tennessee State and he didn't put up huge numbers, but probably, he's 2 years, a year, give him a year, give him 2. I think he's an athletic big man. And then they go, I thought yesterday was gigantic getting Isaiah Hunter. Now, and
Totally.
I also think
That's the best one so far, I think.
Yeah, he earned Noweri, one of those two. And I think that my optimism for Nebraska stems from what they have on the hook. I think they got a great chance at Key. I know that Pete Nakos of On3 keeps saying Georgia, but what I hear from Nebraska is no. We feel good about this. Dane Key would be gigantic, and that kid from Washington State, they still have a shot at. I can't say his name. He's a right tackle.
Yeah. It's okay. Don't try. It's fine.
Yeah, multi-year starter. Now he went to LSU, and I think he's going to Michigan now. So you don't like that necessarily, but I still think Nebraska's they're in the hunt for that kid. So there's a kid named Tross from Wake Forest. It's probably not a tackle. They'll bump him inside if he get him. But they got some other guys on the hook that people don't know about. I mean, that I'm not really at liberty to say. So there's things shaking.
Simple. We won't talk next week because we'll be off. So you're off the hook for Friday in New York City. How do you have any lean or sense on this game now that Rule has talked about it at least a little bit leading into next weekend?
Yeah, my sense is it's really evenly matched. my sense, and I've watched. I don't want to. I don't want to actually. I don't know anything. I watched Boston College against Florida State. It was some time ago.
Yeah,
you know,
long time ago.
But yeah, but I watched them, and I remember leaving, and the place I was at, and thinking, "Oh God, okay." First of all, Florida State's a mess. Second of all, Boston College is pretty good. I mean, I was kind of struck by Boston College. Like they're good up front. And they got some athletes. That pass rusher's real. He's real. He was real in that game.
Yeah,
They had
he's a good player.
Yeah, and they had a different quarterback then, so it'll look different from that standpoint. But the impression they made on me was lasting. I thought, oh, they're going to win some games this year, and here they are.
I know you love Bill O'Brien too.
I do.
You seem like a Bill O'Brien guy.
Yeah, I like him.
I do too. For the record, he's great.
Yeah, I'm not surprised you like him. He's hard nosed, smart. I mean, you'd want him leading your kid and leading your program.
Yeah. All right, Simple. Well, have a great holiday. Enjoy the big city. Have safe travels. Give my best to all the people, and we'll talk to you soon.
I'll give your best to all the people.
All the people. Robin, Sean, your family, Jake.
I thought the people in New York.
Coach Bush, everybody in New York. Yes, everyone.
All right. Thank you, Con.
All right. Steve Simple of HuskerOnline.com. As always, a fantastic, wide-ranging conversation with him. Makes me feel a little bit better on the NIL front. I know people are like, Happer, you're sounding some alarm bells this week. You're starting to scare me a little bit. As long as if Nebraska feels like they're in a good place with their top targets, right? Like in order to make this work, you really got to go out and get your top targets. Getting Hunter yesterday really, I think, took an edge off of it. Got to go out and get a couple offensive linemen. Losing World hurts. Couple more offensive linemen might enter, and maybe Nebraska already feels like they got some hooks in some guys. So, we'll see how this all. I mean, when we come back on December 30th, it'll be we'll have more answers to these questions. And Nebraska will have played a football game by then, a football game that we're about to talk about in just a little bit. But we'll come back. We'll round out the noon hour when we return on the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone. can't believe that eligibility is fake.
Yeah, how'd we get here?
I don't know. I don't know what to do. I don't know what's next. This will probably be the entire month. I don't know. It might be the whole offseason. This is going to be at the central focal point of just preparing you guys for 2025 Sports Talk Radio, especially those shows about college football. This is it. It's not specifically eligibility, but what does this look like in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? Does the NCAA exist? Does, what kind of rules are there? Can you put the genie back in the bottle just at least a little bit to be able to prevent player movement? And what is the fact that we're going to have revenue sharing with student athletes going to mean going forward? Does that just means there's more money and more freedom funneling the players' way? The way I see it right now, nothing really changes with the addition of revenue sharing as far as player movement is concerned. Until there is collective bargaining, until there's contracts basically with a quote-unquote players union and front offices, basically what we're looking at right now. We're talking about athletic departments and coaching staffs and stuff like that. Until there's collective bargaining, there's not really contracts, and there will continue to not be contracts. And so when the revenue sharing comes into play next year, and the players are getting paid X amount of dollars a year by the actual university, they're still going to get supplemented. And, actually I would probably say that NIL would still be their primary source of income. They'll probably make the most money still off that. Like, I think a lot of people thought when revenue sharing comes into play, then NIL will go back to, it will return to what we more commonly tried to make it, what we wanted it to be, the original intent of NIL. I don't think that's the case. I think it'll continue to stay exactly how it is. It'll continue to lure players into the transfer portal, from the transfer portal into the recruiting, from the recruiting standpoint. Every time you do something new, you open up the opportunity where people will do it for the first time and try to find an edge on something. And so I know one of the talking points that came out of the junior college ruling with Diego Pavia, which, by the way, is still only at this moment applicable to Diego Pavia, not any other junior college players, but it does set a precedent. So maybe there's an expectation on that soon. But one of the conversations I heard coming out of that was, colleges are going to, junior college football is going to be back because colleges, four-year schools, are going to send high school players there, let them go to junior college for a year or 2 years, have it not count against their eligibility. They can develop, especially if you're a team with a roster that's bloated and you are worried about what you have on your 105 already. Your roster is full. If you're Georgia, you put a player at the Georgia Military Academy, you put 5 of them there, and all of a sudden they're on your roster in 2 years and they've developed, and it's basically, or a year, and they've developed kind of under your tutelage or an arm of your tutelage. And they still have the same amount of eligibility as they would have when they would have came as a freshman. That's one of the things. I would imagine that will be the case, but that's not where the edges end. It's not going to get better. I think it's been a somber week. It's been like a sobering week for that idea as well. It's not going to get any better. The freedom in the player movement is not slowing down anytime soon, and coaches have to adapt and adjust to it. And it's hard because every single year, everyone is a free agent, or every single day, everyone is a free agent. There's nothing preventing anyone at any time from getting up and leaving. Now, of course, you can't go, yet. You can't. Peter, I mean, just wait till somebody files a court injunction against this. Let's say player A has a great start to his season at the University of Arkansas. The University of Arkansas has a great start to his season. Nebraska's starting running back gets hurt, and they go and they say to running back at the University of Arkansas, "Wow, you've run for 250 yards so far. We could really use you up here. We'll pay you $1.5 million to come be our running back right now." And he comes up and he's in a Husker uniform a day later, and they file a court injunction to say, "Well, you're costing me money," because that's what at the center of the Diego Pavia thing is, earnings opportunity. And so the player's case is, well, all right, they were going to pay me $1.5 million to go transfer there and be the running back, and there's no rules in place. Like, there is a rule in place by the NCAA that says I can't play this semester, but I'm trying to challenge people on that one as well, because once again, earnings opportunity. So where does it end? It doesn't. Like, it's only a matter of time before crap like that happens. So just prepare for it. Sorry if I'm a Debbie Downer.
It's happening.
It's the holiday. We're supposed to be merry and bright right now. I'm not very merry and bright about college football. It has not made me very merry and bright this year. I think college football deserves coal underneath its in its stocking.
No gifts.
I think college football gets coal. Maybe we should make that a graphic of some sort. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah. All right.
Well, it's unfortunate that right when we're about to get into this historic and anticipated expanded playoff, a lot of the discourse is about how messed
everyone's
up
in the transfer portal.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not fun.
Pretty funny. Pretty classic. We get a where was that comment from? Somebody emailed in. Yes, it was an email from Matt on the Equitable Bank inbox. You remember back in the day when Jim Tressel was fired from Ohio State because his players were getting free tattoos? What do you think is going through his mind these days with NIL and players being able to make millions of dollars? I think it's the same for every single player who played college football before like 3 years ago. There's or coached college football before like 3 years ago, and they're just like, wow, this is nuts. This is nuts. This would have been legal. This would have been. I mean, that's what it constantly goes through my head. I'm at the point where I'm on the radio publicly today talking about how Nebraska should tamper in their level of tampering and how advantageous it should be and it would be to them to tamper. They need to be tampering. Everybody else is tampering.
Time to
Please
tamper.
go steal players off of other people's rosters. Tell them that you're going to pay them $750,000 to come be the starting X whatever here next year. Nebraska needs to be doing that. Why? Because everybody else is doing it and nobody else cares at this point. So I'm at the point where I'm sick of hearing coaches complain about it because everyone's doing it, right? You're the only person going 42 miles an hour on the interstate while everybody's going 60, 75 by you. And you're like, hey, why the hell are those guys going so fast? You're like, no, it's time for you to pick it up. It's time for you
to slam on the gas.
Absolutely, man. So that's kind of where I'm at with college football. It's a mess, as you well know. Our picks are coming up in the 1 o'clock hour. We still have a few things to get to. We'll kind of take a look ahead at the next week. Nebraska football in the Pinstripe Bowl, of course. Nebraska basketball at the Diamond Head Classic. Creighton basketball tomorrow in a game against Villanova. It's always a big game against Villanova. By the way, said this earlier. Peter, why don't we do this? I got 2 tickets that are burning a hole in my pocket for the Jays game tomorrow. Yeah. I got 2 tickets on me. So what do you think? Caller number 2. We'll make it like just real simple.
Let's do it.
Call right now, 402-951-1620. I have 2 tickets to the Creighton game tomorrow against Villanova. I'll send them to you. Peter will take your information. Caller number 2, 402-951-1620. Right now on the 42 Degrees of Source hotline. We'll take that, and we'll get you into the Creighton game tomorrow. Coming up on 1620 The Zone. All right, here we go. 1 o'clock hour, the Connor Happer Show here on 1620 The Zone and on 1620thezone.com. College football playoff starts tonight, and there is snow all over the ground in South Bend, Indiana. Now, our second of the 4 quarterfinal college football playoff games will be in State College, Pennsylvania tomorrow morning at 11. And what do you know? I've just seen a video of snowy, playoff-ready Beaver Stadium in Happy Valley, Pennsylvania, which is extremely exciting to watch. I do love a good snow game. We've had a couple good snow games already this year. The Bills had a good snow game. The
Browns Steelers.
Browns had a good snow game. Remember, because Jameis saw snow for the first time and he was very excited about it. Not too many college games. Indiana Purdue was a snow game. Don't think we've had any yet in bowl season either, and we usually don't because most of the bowl games are either in the southern part of the country or in a domed stadium. But now we have outdoor in the north college football playoff games. And honestly, I couldn't be more excited about it. Okay, a couple videos I want to get here on Husker football before we turn our attention completely to that. Let's start with Dana Holgerson. I love listening to Dana Holgerson talk. It's one of my favorite things. He says whatever is on his mind. Here's Dana Holgerson on how he feels the offensive line situation is at the moment and then going forward.
We need to bring some guys in. Okay. There's 3 of them out there at practice right now. We visited probably 5 or 6 of them and probably going to bring in some more. I mean, we're running out of time here this week. I mean, I know what we got scheduled for guys coming in, but there are 2 on campus right now. Hopefully we get them, and then we'll probably reassess it and bring in a few more, in January. So
I think my favorite part was right at the beginning, and it was sort of sudden when he goes, we need more. We need
what do I say?
We need more. We need more. We got like 3 of them practicing with us right now. We're bringing in more to visit, and hopefully we get them. But we need more offensive linemen. So that should give you a pretty good idea of where Nebraska's priorities lie in the moment in the transfer portal. I do think they, like I said, I think they got a nice addition with Isaiah Hunter yesterday, the freshman, or there'll be a sophomore next year, the receiver from California. You can answer that, Peter. Yeah, and then we'll get to the other video afterwards. And then we'll, so I thought they had a really, really nice addition yesterday with Hunter. 40 catch guy last year, 600 yards, certainly projectable, big body, 6'2". Watch this film. He makes some really, really nice contested catches and jump balls. Like the exact type of guy that you want if you're going to be able to, if you want to be able to throw the football downfield and open things up in 2025, which Nebraska certainly plans to do. So that's a good addition. Maybe you could add another one there, but Barney, and then you got Lloyd, and then you got Cortez Mills. Still some younger, unproven talent in that room, but not a bad place to start at the wide receiver. No doubt you need to turn your attention to the offensive line. Offensive tackle. Nebraska missed out on Isaiah World, the tackle from Nevada who ended up at Oregon. They need a starter or 2 at that position. And then the other video that I wanted to play, this is all from our friends. Well, I mean, Nebraska kind of put this on. It was the Pinstripe Bowl press conference yesterday. So they did an hour of coordinators from each side and then players from each side. So an hour from each university. This is in Nebraska's hour. The other thing that I wanted to pull out of here was Dylan Raiola. So we're talking about tampering and we're talking about the transfer portal and all this stuff. Here is Dylan Raiola yesterday. He was asked about his, when he randomly was like, once again, this is for people who don't follow like the day-to-day, and they saw this tweet from Dylan Raiola and it said, "Hey, I'm happy to announce that I'm coming back to Nebraska. Like, I'm very excited to be here." We're like, wait a minute. I thought you already were here. You're not out of eligibility, right? Well, this is kind of how college football works now. Here's Dylan Raiola on that whole process.
Yeah, those days were crazy. Kind of out of my control on whatever happened and spiraled. So, for me, it was just, honestly, it was unfortunate. I had to, kind of reassure everyone I was here. I never officially entered, and never really was shopping around. So, yeah, I don't really have much to say other than, that whole kind of deal was kind of out of my control, and I'm playing quarterback in Nebraska.
So let me ask you this, and attempt for me if you can to take your like Nebraska fandom out of it. If I know that's a really, really difficult ask, but try if you can. Like, because people often say we have free agents every year in college football, and people often say out loud, they say players owe it to themselves to jump into the transfer portal or to shop themselves and to see what kind of earnings potential they actually have. Or people will often say when a player does transfer and it appears as if they are taking a lump sum of money somewhere, that they will say, well, I don't really blame them. I don't really blame them. I don't know if I love, and Simple said a similar thing with Dowdell. Okay, like you, if that is your priority, you are making a conscious decision as a player to take the money, right? But anyone in professional sports could probably tell you that that's not always the right decision to take them. Like there's no guarantees when you do take the money. Sometimes it works out for the best. Sometimes it's a split and it doesn't really matter. And sometimes it actually works out worse for you if you end up taking more money. So I want to give credit to guys like Dylan Raiola, who, and I don't know how much he's telling the truth. I don't know how much he was or wasn't shopping himself around. I'm going to take him at his word for it. As bad of a rap as he gets, for going to 50 different high schools and when he was in high school, I've heard nothing to the contrary of him ever, thinking I don't want to be here. I've never thought that he doesn't want to be here. I've never got the sense that he was going to leave. Obviously, the concern that popped up during last season was, well, is Nebraska going to be good enough to have an argument to keep him around? But I want to give credit to guys like Dylan Raiola, who don't really play that game and haven't, and certainly could. I mean, if there's a guy in the country or a list of guys, a group of guys, a small group of guys around the country who, if they entered the transfer portal, their name in the transfer portal today, I mean, they could be millionaires tomorrow if they wanted to. He could easily do that. And then he could do it again next year, but he hasn't, and he's not doing that. And so I like, people often like to say, well, it's not the player's fault for taking more money. Yeah, you still have to make the conscious decision and do it or not do it. And so I think these guys deserve, I think a guy like Dylan, and people who have stayed on rosters and stayed loyal, all across the country and have not shopped themselves out there deserve a lot of credit. And I'm not trying to disparage the people that do go into the transfer portal and do take a bunch more money and whatever that might be. But, like the guys who are still going about their college eligibility, quote unquote, the right way, or at least not messing with people, at least not floating out this idea as like, oh, hey, you know what? If I might go in the transfer portal and just seeing what kind of bites you get on that. Shout out to the people who are doing it the right way. I think Dylan Raiola is doing it the right way. At least it seems like it to me. And that is a credit to him. And like I said, I'm not trying to pounce all over the guys who went to the transfer portal and took money or whatever it might be. Like they got their own thing. But yeah, I don't want to sit here and be like, well, the players like owe it to themselves to go into the transfer portal, because no, they did. Like if you don't feel like you want to, if you feel like Nebraska is the best place for you, then it's your and your agents and your people's like responsibility to go to Nebraska and be like, okay, like I'm not going to go into the transfer portal, but I feel like I've been loyal, so let's work out a deal. Like let's I'm a leader on this team, this and this and this and this. And don't get me wrong, right? It was certainly very well taken care of at Nebraska. All right. Any thoughts on that? Like to hear it from you all. 402-951-1620. Still a couple minutes to get your thoughts in on the show. One of the final shows of the year, the final show before Christmas. By the way, congratulations to Taylor, who won our Creighton tickets for tomorrow. Taylor, I'm going to email you right after the show ends, so watch out for a Ticketmaster email. By the way, our winner from yesterday, Eric, check your email. Check your email. Check out those tickets. I gave you 4 tickets yesterday. Check them out.
Check them out.
Just check out your email. That's all. All right. We will be back. We'll make picks for the weekend, the week, and all sorts of stuff on the other side as we wind down on the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone. we return on Monday the 30th, we will have seen NFL games on Netflix. Well, maybe. Theoretically, we would have seen NFL games on Netflix, right?
In theory, on paper.
We will have seen 4 college football playoff games with a 5th coming on New Year's Eve, and then the 6th, 7th, and 8th coming on New Year's Day, January 1st, 2000. So still only 4 playoff games that we're just going to see this weekend. We're going to pick those here in just 1 second. By the way, the tickets, they have this as a feature on the ESPN website when you look at the scores. So ticket, they have like the lowest get-in price for these games. Penn State SMU, $35. $35, you could stroll over and go to a college football playoff game on Saturday if you're interested. It's a historic college football playoff game too. It's one of the first few that's played on a college campus. Normal prices for Texas and Clemson, $66. That's probably a little cheap still, right? And then Tennessee and Ohio State, $82 for a get-in price. Boy, that value has shrunk more than I thought, given the proximity of those two. But the most expensive ticket for the weekend is in the game tonight. And by the way, this line has shrunk. Indiana, Notre Dame. Get-in price, according to, what do they use? Vivid Seats? $500.
Oh.
$500 is the lowest one.
Got some change?
Yeah. Gosh, is there any in the lower? Let's see if I can see in the lower. There's one in the corner in the lower bowl. 1 ticket. So you got to sit by yourself in row 38. Really on the caddy corner with the Indiana sideline, $523. Oh man. That's awesome. That is going to be such a fun watch tonight with Indiana and Notre Dame. Before we get to those games, though, let's talk a little bit about what else we have coming up. So we leave you here with Creighton. They, in the time that we're gone from now until Monday the 30th, they will only have 1 game, and that game is tomorrow. How badly do they need to win that game? And knowing that Ryan Kalkbrenner and Creighton has had their problems with Derek Dixon, and Eric Dixon is somehow still in college. And it'll present a different sort of challenge, I think, but it's such an important game for Creighton tomorrow, just for confidence and to respond from what you did against Georgetown. Because remember, you get a long, long layoff. You're not back until New Year's Eve, the 31st against St. John's, and then you're back at Marquette, I think, on the 4th. After that. So, I mean, and by the way, these are big games coming up too. Like Villanova's played better basketball as of late. St. John's has been probably the 2nd or 3rd best team in the conference so far this year. And, Marquette is in the same category, maybe even a little higher than St. John's. So it's a huge game for Creighton tomorrow at the CHI. So they needed to be sort of rocket. It'll be an interesting environment too. We'll see people getting Christmas shopping done and stuff like that. So we'll see what it sounds, feels, and looks like. And the kids are on break. We're heading into the part of the college basketball season where the kids are gone. Where are the kids? We know they won't be saying bleep KU to the tune of Mr. Brightside anymore. But who will occupy that noise that is usually made by the student section. Then for Nebraska, they don't have to worry about any student sections at the Diamond Head Classic. They get Murray State coming up to start the weekend, or the full week in Hawaii, as Nebraska, I believe, departed yesterday, or maybe today. Then win or lose, they'll either get Charlotte or Hawaii. So it'll either be a revenge game for Bryce Williams or Hawaii. And then your cross bracket game at the end will give you either Oregon State, College of Charleston, Loyola, or Oakland. None of these games are going to help you out a whole lot from the net perspective or for the KenPom perspective. But so it's pretty important that Nebraska is able to come back home with probably at least 2 wins and more likely 3 before there's one more tune-up game against Southern in the non-con, and then they go back into conference play, and a huge one right out of the chute coming out after New Year against UCLA at Pinnacle Bank Arena. That could end up being, honestly, that could end up being one of the biggest games at PBA in a long time. UCLA has been very, very good this year. Just the one loss, 10 wins. They're I don't know what their rank is right now, what their AP rank is right now. But they're 13 in KenPom. That's a huge game for Nebraska against UCLA, and that's the Bear K revenge game potentially. All right, so that's on your basketball slate for the next few weeks here. By the way, Andy writes in, Creighton lost to Georgetown. Georgetown, doesn't matter what they do, they'll be lucky to make the NIT. Oh, I don't know about that, Andy. Like, I mean, it was a bad loss, certainly. I don't know that Georgetown is horrible. They're certainly not as bad as they have been in previous years. I agree that Creighton has not looked good, and it's been troublesome for them this year. But I don't know. I wouldn't wipe them out. I wouldn't write them off just yet. Yeah, I know people are doing this is just 2015 again. Well, if it's 2015, if it's the year after Doug left, it's the year after Doug left with a whole lot more talent. They're going to have the opportunity to win some games. They still have one of the best players in the country on their roster. They just have to fight. You guys have to, we have to admit to ourselves that the standard is sort of raised around here a little bit. And, you're not going to go to the Elite 8 every year. You're not going to go to the Sweet 16 every year. And yeah, there might even be some years where you don't even go to the NCAA tournament. But I think if you ask any Creighton fan at the beginning of a 5-year stretch and you ask them, you're like, hey, would you sign up for 4 NCAA tournaments in the next 5 years? Meaning there's going to be one NCAA tournament you don't make. Or would you sign up for 8 NCAA tournaments in the next 10 years? There's going to be 2 NCAA tournaments in 10 years that you don't make. Would you sign? I think I would. Like for a program like Creighton, I think the floor could be a whole hell of a lot lower than it is. They've raised the floor of this thing, and they've certainly raised the ceiling. So, they might not make the NCAA tournament. They right now, if it started today, which it does not, notably, they would most certainly be on the outside looking in. Okay, playoff games. Let's pick them. I don't have Josh's picks on these. We could get those if we want to count them. But basically for all intents and purposes, the pick 'em is I think Josh won. I'm not conceding yet, but Josh being gone this week, it feels like he won. I don't know. Feels like it's kind of over. So let's just pick these games and have a little bit on them just for fun here. We begin tonight on ESPN. Number 10 seed Indiana against number 7 seed Notre Dame. This line has gone down to, you can get it at 6.5 now. I saw it at 7.5 this morning in a couple different places. You can get it at 6.5, so we'll split it and say 7. This game on ESPN will be called by Sean McDonough, Greg McElroy, Molly McGrath. Good crew. Once again, we did our playoff winners confidence rankings. We did that yesterday or Wednesday, Peter? If you don't remember it, then we did it yesterday.
Yeah, it was probably yesterday.
Okay, we did it yesterday. I would say that the winner of this game I feel least confident about going into the weekend. With that being said, I am going to take Notre Dame. I don't love taking Notre Dame. I don't have any confidence in it. I think this will be fun. This is the best kind of matchup I think that we have on paper between these two teams. You got the snow, you got the in-state piece of it. I'm super fired up for this game. I'm going to take Notre Dame. And basically my strategy here is, even picking against the spread, I'm still going to pick teams that I think winners.
Yeah.
So even if I think Notre Dame, is unlikely to cover or this game is going to be close, I'm still going to take Notre Dame. So give me Notre Dame to advance and move into the next round of the playoff, which winner gets Georgia. Yes. So This is the step toward that. You like Notre Dame or you like Indiana?
I like Notre Dame, but I like Indiana to be leading heading into the fourth.
Okay, all right. I like that. That's specific.
I think Indiana covers, but I like Notre Dame in the end to win.
All right. Number 11 SMU against number 6 Penn State. Penn State's an 8.5-point favorite. Tomorrow morning on TNT or Max. That's right. If you'd like to stream a college football playoff game on Max, you could do that. This will be called by Mark Jones, Roddy Jones, and Quint Kesnick. Tomorrow. The Jones. Mark Jones, who's been doing a lot of Colorado games this year. Penn State is an 8.5-point favorite. This is the one that I feel most confident about. I love Penn State here. I just think SMU is not ready for that. Not ready for that type of talent. I know Penn State's. I guess the thing that gives me pause here is the fact that Penn State, does not have the greatest of histories in big games.
Yeah, the big game narrative with
absolutely,
Franklin.
that totally exists, and I use it against them often. But as I've said throughout this entire year, I think that group has separated themselves from there's the Ohio States, there's the Oregons, there's the Georgias of the world. Then there's a step, and it's the Penn States of the world. Maybe Texas is in there, and Notre Dame is probably in there as far as playoff teams are concerned. And then there's another gigantic gap, and that's where the bigger gap is. And I think your SMU is in there. I think Indiana is in there. And I think, probably, Arizona State is in the third, right? In the third tier. But so I think Penn State's pretty good. And I like what Drew Aller's been giving them lately. Give me Penn State to win and cover. I think they win by like 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I think at least a 10-point win.
All right. Number 12, Clemson is on the road in Austin. They get the great pleasure of playing the warmest playoff game to start off this weekend. Texas is a 12-point favorite. This is 3:00 Saturday, TNT and Max. Broadcasted by Dave Pasch, Dusty Dvoracek, and Taylor McGregor. I do not like Clemson. But Texas is another team that this year I've just sort of rode against the narrative on. Like, they have beaten a bunch of nobodies. They lost to Georgia twice. I am not like a huge buyer in Texas. I think they're clearly better than Clemson, though.
That's where I'm at.
I think they're clearly better than Clemson. So I'll take Texas. That's a big number, though.
I am not confident in Texas' ability to go deep into this playoff, but
yeah,
as far as a first-round draw goes, I think
it's a pretty good one.
Pretty much the biggest mismatch. I think this will be the largest margin of victory out of the first 4 games.
That's a good side bet. The largest margin of victory. So you're going with Texas. I'd probably
that number is a little big, but I think a 2-touchdown win at least.
I'd probably go with Penn State, but yeah, it's certainly possible. And then there's so many fascinating storylines to this one. Tennessee and Ohio State. Ohio State's a 7.5-point favorite against number 9 Tennessee. This is on ABC, ESPN, primetime Saturday night. Fowler, Herb Street, Row. Tennessee fans are driving 5 hours north to Columbus to wear orange and play Rocky Top and listen to their own fight song. And
very curious to see just how much orange is in there.
I think it's going to be staggering. I think you'll notice,
because we were talking about that earlier this week, and it's going to be great for Ohio State.
You're going to notice it on TV. I think this is a defensive game. I'm going to give the edge to Ohio State. I think they're better. They're more consistent. And I'm a little obviously worried about them in terms of where are you at from a mental standpoint? Like, how are you handling this? How are you handling the loss to Michigan? Honestly, it doesn't seem like very well. So there is some real concern about them, but at the end of the day, I'm going to go football here. And I just think they're better than Tennessee. So I'll take Buckeyes to win the football game and advance to the quarterfinal against Oregon.
This is the one game of the first 4 I'm going to pick the road team.
All right.
I do have.
You are more gutsy than I, Peter Man.
And it's not like I feel completely sold on it, but I think
I'm fine with the pick.
I think Tennessee can string enough plays together, and I think Ohio State is reeling still, and the mojo is just not.
I'm fine with
where
the
it
pick.
needs to be.
Yeah,
So
I say if you're shooting for Tennessee in this one, like don't apologize for it.
I'm going to say Tennessee in
it.
the one possession range.
Yeah,
So.
I could see it. And then we'll finish with a game that won't happen for another 8 days. Nebraska, at this moment, is a 2.5 point favorite against Boston College. This is December 28th, 11 a.m. on ABC, as called by Mike Monaco, Kirk Morrison, and Don Davenport. I'm excited for Nebraska to be back on the worldwide leader.
Yeah, this is a rare one.
I'm excited for them to be back in the Disney, ABC, ESPN family of networks here. So that's good. And as we talked about with BC earlier, I think this is a game that you're not going to see a lot of you haven't seen a lot of opt-outs. And Nebraska's been affected by the transfer portal. Boston College been affected by the transfer portal a little bit, but major players in this game, you think of Dylan Raiola, you think of Ty Robinson, you think of Donovan Izaraku from Boston College. They're playing, so
I think it's two teams that have core players that care a lot about their programs and they're ready to throw down, which is exciting because
that's
in this day and age, you just don't know if that's going to happen anymore.
You do not normally get that in a bowl game. No Thomas Castellano at quarterback for Boston College, but that has been the case for a couple of weeks for them. He ended up in the transfer portal, and of all places, I believe he ended up at Florida State. I have no idea. Do you have any sort of guess for this? I'm just going to homer pick Nebraska, I suppose.
That's what I was going to do, and I've tried to get a read on this. I really don't know. I'm going to go Nebraska. I
GBR.
think I'll just say they'll be up by 3 late, tack on another field goal. BC has a drive to win, and they don't convert. We'll say 6 points.
Izaraku, their defensive end, who is one of the
I do not think it's going to be a high-scoring game.
Yeah, one of the nation's leaders in sacks this year is a little bit terrifying. So
I think the defenses are going to have a good day.
Yeah. All right. That is it for our picks. We'll be back. We'll quickly get to the polls. We'll quickly tell you what to watch before we get out of here on a Friday on 1620 The Zone. right, to the polls at Happer Show on the J-Tech Construction Zone Twitter feed. I like it. We had a theme today. Y'all need a pilot? Is the question. No. I'm my own pilot. 53% say yes. And best feature of Mark Wahlberg's character in Flight Risk 2025, is it the male pattern baldness or the fact that he was a hitman?
What do the people think?
What do you think? Which way did you vote on this?
I would say the baldness.
The baldness?
Purely on the shock factor.
All right, go 63%. 63% baldness. That is the way we're headed on that one.
We've got a lot of hitmen. We don't have a lot of bald Mark Wahlberg.
No, we do not have a lot of bald Mark Wahlberg. We have a lot of Mark Wahlberg like killing people and beating people up, but never being bald really. All right. Anything to watch? I know it's a lot of ground to cover. We had the playoff tonight. Watch the playoff.
Yeah, the playoff.
Don't watch anything else.
If you want the here and now, we are currently watching the Cure Bowl.
We are
on ESPN, and that is in Orlando, and then immediately following in Tampa is the Gasparilla Bowl with Florida and Tulane. If you want to see treasure map end zones, they went all out in Tampa for that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they did.
Is there like a puzzle in there or something like that?
It looks like there's some sort of hidden clue mystery thing going on.
That is amazing.
Yeah, they had spared no expense on the end zones.
That is awesome.
If the playoff doesn't float your fancy somehow, there is some Friday night basketball on Big Fox. Interest for the Big East because it is a Big East matchup. So
yeah, what do we got?
We've got Providence and the Johnnies.
Okay.
That will be on prime time on
Did
Fox.
Did you see Rick Pitino say that he is quitting handshake lines now?
Did he really say that?
Yes, he is. He has tweeted.
Is that a real thing?
He tweeted. This is yesterday. I certainly have respect for the coaches and teams we play, but after witnessing multiple problems with the post-game handshake line, we will take a page out of the NBA playbook and refrain. That's right. Rick Pitino's not shaking hands anymore.
I'm sure there will be no issues down the line.
Totally. Not at all.
I'm sure that all the coaches will accept that.
You're about to see that for the first time on television tonight. People are going to have an adverse reaction.
If you wanted a reason to tune into that game tonight.
So
let's see.
Yeah, just watch the playoff and then watch the post-game handshake line.
And then Jays After Dark, Creighton women against #1 UCLA.
Yeah.
That will be on FS1, 10 p.m. And
Thank
then
you for
also
mentioning that.
Also on 1180, I'll be in the chair burning the midnight oil.
Let's go, Peter, man.
So that'll be a fun one.
Excellent. All right, Peter, it's been fun this week. Thanks for hanging out with me.
Yeah.
It's greatly appreciated. We thank you.
Getting to do a full week, that's
you almost
a lot of fun. Yeah, well, yeah, 4 out of 5.
Yeah. We thank
Shout
you.
out Joey.
We thank Joey. And Josh Hodson, of course. I know we're going to probably say, Happy New Year when we come back, but thank you all. It is because of you, the listeners, that we get to act like idiots every day on the radio because you have accepted us as we are, idiots. So it's greatly appreciated. I think our listeners are the absolute best. As they can attest to, actually most of them seem to enjoy the crossovers, which is coming up next. And it's a 20-minute segment where we don't talk about anything usually. So I think that's a testament to you all, the listeners of our various shows on 1620 The Zone. We'll talk to you again soon. Time first for the crossover. It's next.